Monday Night Baseball. From the Metrodome in Minneapolis, the New York Yankees take on the Minnesota Twins. And the Yanks come in with Don Mattingly. And when Mattingly hit this shot Saturday night to homer in his 8th straight game, it tied Dale Long's 31-year-old record. The streak was snapped last night, but he still had 2 hits and comes in tonight hitting .342. The Metrodome near downtown Minneapolis, a facility that opened in 1982. And now under the big top, indoors, tonight, the Twins will go over the million mark in home attendance as they begin a big 3-game series against the New York Yankees. The 2 division leaders having at it. As we take a look at the standings right now in the East, it's become a 3-team race with the Yankees on top. Toronto only 3 back and 2 down in the loss column, and Detroit is also only 2 back in the loss column and 4 games behind. Meanwhile, a real scramble in the American League West where the Twins are 9 games over 500. Oakland is just a game back. The Angels were hot prior to the All-Star break to get back in the race. Kansas City's been staggering. They've lost 10 of 11, but still only 4 games back, and Seattle trails by 4.5. I'm Al Michaels, and welcome to Minnesota for who knows what could be a preview look at the American League Championship Series. Certainly the New York Yankees figure to be in it until the very end with people like Winfield and Mattingly and Henderson and some pretty good pitching. And as far as the Minnesota Twins are concerned, even though they're only 9 games over 500, they play in a very well-balanced and even division, and a division without a dominant team, so they could stay right in it until the very end as well. The big story in baseball, of course, has revolved around the Yankees in the past several days. Don Mattingly went into the All-Star break having homered in 5 consecutive games. Then he hit 2 home runs in the game after the break on Thursday, won a grand slam. That made it 6 straight to tie an American League mark. He hit a home run to break the American League record on Friday and then tied Dale Long's mark with homer number 8, or in 8 straight games on Saturday. I asked him earlier to reflect upon his feat.
It's a great feeling. It really is to have did that. The big thing, it was something that I didn't really try to do. It just kept happening for me. I was feeling good at the plate. All of a sudden hit a long ball one day. And I told a couple of guys, I said, I feel like I'm going to hit one every day now. And a lot of times you feel that way, but it never happens for you. And it was one of those times it just kept happening. And I didn't try to fight it at all. I didn't worry about it and didn't think it would go on that long. And it was something I just kept on trying to, hey, let's go out and help the club today. We're in the middle of a race, and keep doing positive things for our club. And it just kept happening.
What were you thinking about each time you stepped in last night in Texas?
Last night was a different situation. For the first time, I think I thought about it a little bit. I knew it was going to be over one way or the other last night. I knew that the record's broken and it keeps going, or it's over tonight. So I knew it was going to be relief after the game from all the questions and stuff. But only one time last night did I go for the long ball. Other situations, it was still a close game. The first 3 times I came up, the game was in line. So I'm basically trying to get on base for someone else, a double. Basically the same way I threw the whole streak. Try to get a good pitch to hit something hard. And it had been going out before that, and it didn't go out last night.
Tim McCarver joining me now. It seems like ancient history, Tim, but 5 or 6 weeks ago, Don Mattingly had a back injury. He was in traction, and the Yankees were concerned about his immediate and his long-term future.
And I thought the interesting thing about Don's interview with you, Al, was he was talking about things happening. And there's an interesting theory in baseball. It's by no means new. But the theory is this, that if something's wrong with the middle part of your body, for instance, there's a little pull or something, one of the worst things you can do as a hitter is to overswing and to swing too hard. Well, when something's wrong with your body in there, then you smooth out your swing. Your rhythm is much smoother, and you don't try to hit the ball too hard. And I know it's a strange theory. That's by no means to imply that you ought to go out and have your body pummeled so you'll be a better hitter.
I was thinking a year ago, the New York Times took a poll to determine who was the best player. Took it amongst the players. Mattingly was number 1. Who'd win that poll today?
Oh, no question about it, Don Mattingly.
Encore performance, you betcha. Let me turn now to Jim Palmer. Let's talk about the American League West. We have 2.5 months to go in the season. I talked about it being a balanced division with no dominant teams. What do you feel are the chances of the Minnesota Twins to win it all?
Gee, that's a question that everybody here in Minneapolis is asking. I really think they have a great chance of winning, and the reason is because of Jeff Reardon. They have a ball club that back in 1984, 81 and 81, they only were 3 games behind. Everybody thought they were a contending team. I think the thing that you talked about, Al, the fact they're 9 games over 500, but the bottom line, the guy we're going to see tonight, Les Straker, he has to pick up the pieces. He's 5-5. He's had a good year, but the key to Minnesota is really that they start pitching better. And Jeff Reardon, the stopper, 19 saves. It's the one ingredient they haven't had over the past few years.
Well, we'll see Straker going to the mound tonight as the Minnesota Twins open up this series with the New York Yankees. It's Tommy John and Les Straker. ABC's Monday Night Baseball is brought to you by the heartbeat of America, today's Chevrolet. By Budweiser, Beechwood aged toward that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By Vibrant. Vibrant helps you wake up. Safe, effective, Vibrant. Safe and effective is confirmed by government-appointed experts. Vibrant. And by Kellogg's Special K cereal. Yankee lineup tonight. Ricky Henderson leads off, and then batting second and playing center field will be Claudell Washington. The man himself, Don Mattingly, the American League Player of the Week. Batting third, hitting cleanup, is Dave Winfield. Recalled from the minors yesterday, Dan Pasqua. He is the DH and bats fifth. Mike Pagliarulo with 17 home runs, batting sixth. Then Mark Salas, who began the year as a Twin and was traded for Niekro, hit seventh. Bobby Meacham is off the disabled list in the lineup at second base. And the Yankee shortstop bats ninth. That's Wayne Tollison. The Twins defensively, they have Dan Gladden in left, Kirby Puckett in center, and Mark Davidson plays right. The infield of Gary Gaetti at third, Greg Gagne at shortstop, Steve Lombardozzi is the second baseman, and Ken Herbeck is at first. Tim Laudner is back of the plate. And a man with a lot of perseverance, Les Straker, is on the mound, and that's exactly what it takes, because Les Straker is 27 years old. He is in his 10th year of professional baseball, but he is a true rookie. He had never spent 10 minutes in the big leagues until opening day 1987.
Well, they planned. I talked to Tom Kelly, the manager of the Twins, before the game, and he said he was going to make the club last year, hurt his ribs in an exhibition game right before the season, then got the chicken pox. This year, he really felt that he had the club made from the start of spring training, and the 5-5 record is very misleading. Earned run average of 350. That is about a run lower than the American League average. So he's done the job. Fastball, a little bit of a breaking ball, a changeup, and he's really thrown the ball over the plate a lot for him, and that's the key. Tom Kelly talking about what it's going to take for him to be successful. He has to get his fastball over.
He starts by facing Henderson, Washington, and Mattingly. It's the second time this season that Straker has faced the Yankees. He beat them on the 9th of May, even though he worked just 5 2/3 innings. He pitched well, no runs, 2 hits, and then Berenguer and Reardon combined with Straker for a shutout. Ricky Henderson was rested last night in Texas, so his hitting streak is still alive. He's hit safely in 10 straight. The two division leaders on the 20th night of July having added in Minneapolis, and here we go as Henderson looks at a strike. Ricky was on the disabled list. In June, he had that hamstring pull, and he's been struggling a bit since coming off. He's hitting only .271, despite having hit in 10 straight games.
That's the reason Ricky is in left field tonight instead of his customary center field spot. Claudell Washington has moved into center field, and Ricky will be in left meadow this evening.
The 1-1 from Straker is lifted towards shallow right, and Lombardozzi goes out and makes the play. Ricky Henderson pops out to the second baseman. Lombardozzi got a good break as the ball left the bat and makes the catch on the run.
Well, that was the key to the play, was the break. A lot of times rather routine plays are made because of doing something well at the beginning of the break, and because he had such a good break, he made a rather routine play out of it.
Now Claudell Washington. He has turned out to be a very important acquisition for the Yankees. Washington has been around for years. The Yankees picked him up midway through the 1986 season in the deal that sent Ken Griffey to Atlanta. They picked him up to come off the bench to spell those who might be injured in the outfield, and that's exactly what he has done with aplomb this year. 1-1.
Was their leading hitter early in the year, had a groin pull, came back from that, and what he does so well is he hangs in there against left-handers. Obviously, he's facing a right-hander tonight. He's not a home run hitter. He uses all parts of the field. Can run. Pretty good defensive player.
Grounds to Gagne for the out. And quickly 2 down now in the first inning. And up comes Don Mattingly. Lost in the shuffle last night because he did not hit a home run in his 9th straight game is the fact that he did break a mark. He has an extra base hit now in 10 consecutive games, and that breaks the American League record of 9 held by Babe Ruth. Outside, and you talk about a record that's basically overlooked. I didn't see it in any newspaper that I read today, and it was one of those things that just got lost in the shuffle because everybody was so concerned about Dale Long. Lifted to shallow left and down the line, and back goes Gaetti to make the catch and retire the side. So Straker retires Henderson, Washington, and Mattingly. Pretty good beginning. Here's the lineup now for the Minnesota Twins. They have Dan Gladden leading off in left. Greg Gagne has moved up into the 2 spot tonight with Kirby Puckett batting third. In the cleanup spot is Minnesota's third baseman Gary Gaetti. And then comes Kent Hrbek at first base. Batting 6th is Tom Brunansky, who hit his 20th home run of the season yesterday. The catcher is Tim Loudner. He'll bat 7th. In the lineup in right tonight is Mark Davidson, who bats 8th, and Steve Lombardozzi is the second baseman. Tommy John at the age of 44 on the mound, and defensively Henderson in left, Washington in center, and Winfield in right, with Mike Pagliarulo at third. Wayne Tollison is the shortstop. Bobby Meacham is at second, and Don Mattingly is at first. Mark Salas does the catching, and Tommy John, who about a year ago appeared to be on his way to the end of his active career and was heading for the University of North Carolina to be their pitching coach. That didn't work out. Tommy went to spring training and not only earned a spot on the roster, he's a member of the rotation, and a very important member, in fact, with a mark of 8-3 and a 4.13 ERA. The Metrodome continuing to fill up. They expect close to 40,000 tonight. Tommy John, in the summer of '63, that's what he looked like. He was with the Cleveland Indians. Oh, what is this? Oh, come on.
Oh, come on is right.
McCarver was working for a living.
I was in high school.
I was in high school, too, I guess.
What do you mean you guessed?
You guys spent a long time in high school.
Yeah, we were left back 3 or 4 different times. Oh, where did you get those mug shots?
Oh, those are bad shots, man. What about the cab doors? Man,
that was the hairstyle. Had nothing to do with the ears, just the hairstyle.
McCarver didn't look a day over 35. All right, so Tommy John on the mound to face Dan Gladden in the bottom of the first inning, and the breaking pitch is in for a strike, and the count is 0-1. Gladden, Gagne, and Puckett for Minnesota.
Cleveland Indians, and the amazing thing is that he pitches very much like he did in 1963 here in '87. And to me, the amazing thing, Tim, is that he's added 2 more pitches. He's always been basically just a curveball pitcher and a good sinker. I mean, a sinker that you say as a hitter, I'm going to make it be a strike, and then when it's right below your knees, you swing at it. But he's come up with a changeup, what we saw right there, and a cut fastball. And I guess baseball vernacular, a cut fastball comes up home plate, a little more pressure with your index finger, looking like it's going to be straight, and then veers in towards the right-handers away from the left-handers. So he's got a bigger repertoire now than he did 24 years ago.
Well, the cut fastball, I think, is the key, because by running the ball in on right-handers, you prevent them from diving out over the plate.
Gladden shoots one back through the middle for a base hit. So on a 2-1 pitch, the Twins get their leadoff man on. Gladden has speed, too, and it will bring up Greg Gagne.
That's a count that Tommy John has to stay away from. 2-1, getting behind the hitters. He cannot throw the ball around the knees and let it sink, hoping they'll swing at it. He has to throw a strike. He got it about belt high, and Gladden did exactly what he is here for. Single to start off the game and give them a good leadoff hitter, something they've been desperately trying to have all year.
Well, yesterday Gladden had 3 steals, and he is the only Twin in double figures with 17. And it's funny, he's working against Tommy John and also the catcher Mark Salas. Salas, when he was a Twin, couldn't throw anybody out. But as a Yankee, he's thrown about half of those who've attempted to steal out.
As a matter of fact, Salas, as a Twin, was 1 for 20 and caught stealing. The only runner he threw out, right there in your screen, Don Mattingly.
And he threw Mattingly out trying to steal third.
Yeah.
The pitch is a comebacker, and John looked at second and then opts to go to first for the out. Has to settle for the out there. And Gladden advances into scoring position with 1 down.
Well, that's the aggressiveness that Tom Kelly, we talked about attitude. They come to the ballpark thinking they can win this year, and they have been doing that. Right here, you stay out of the double play situation. You start a runner. You know John's around the plate. And Gagne does what he wants to. You open up a hole. You can see the infielders moving. Good chance of getting a first and third situation. You didn't have it there, but it does change the defense and make Gagne a better hitter.
I'll tell you, and Tommy may have had a shot at Gladden at second base. The problem with that, if you throw it to the shortstop, it is going to be thrown in time where the relay throw back to first base is going to get Gagne. The point is, however, that Gladden's on top of the shortstop, and you don't really have a chance.
Puckett hits one down to Meacham, and that advances Gladden to third, and there are 2 down with Gaetti coming up. But what Gladden has done, and Jim talked about the fact he's given them the leadoff man, and that's one of the things the Twins were seeking in spring training. And it wasn't until the end of spring training that Gladden became expendable, and they were able to procure him in a deal with the San Francisco Giants. Now Gaetti, who's had some success against Tommy John in his career. Gary won a Gold Glove last year. Also hit 34 homers and had 108 runs batted in. And he hits it in the air to shallow right field. And it's an easy play for Dave Winfield, and they'll waste a leadoff single by Gladden. They strand Dan at third. It's no score as we go to the second, and we'll be back after this message and a word from your local station. Umpires tonight, Tim McClellan works the plate. Larry Young is at first, and Terry Kraft is at second with Jim McKean at third. Kraft has been called up to fill in for the other member of this crew, John Shulock, who's not here tonight. He's attending a funeral. So the full complement of umpires at the Metrodome for the first game in a big series. The Yankees 3 up in the East, and the Twins are 1 up in the West, and we'll keep you abreast as to the other scores tonight, and in particular how the Oakland A's are doing. If the A's beat Detroit and the Yankees win here, Oakland would actually be in first place by percentage points. Dave Winfield, the batter, takes a strike, and the count is 0-1. Winfield, Pasqua, and Pagliarulo in the second inning.
Doesn't seem bashful about throwing his fastball over, and we're talking about 3 real good fastball hitters. Winfield can hit the hanging breaking ball, but he is what you call a dead red hitter. Looks for the fastball and is fully capable of extending those arms and hitting the ball a long way.
Dave, the only man the other night of the 54 who played in Oakland to go all the way, all 13 innings in the All-Star game.
He said it really helped him down in Texas. 7 strikeouts and 11 at-bats. In fact, he took Saturday night off.
At Detroit, Mike Heath, the former A, has hit a home run. 1-0 Tigers. California, Boston, and Cleveland, Kansas City are underway. In that Kansas City game, Brett Saberhagen is going for number 16. One-two to Winfield is popped foul and back out of play. So it's still 1-2 on Dave, who will forever be a popular figure in this area. This is home for Dave Winfield. Home for him as well, up amongst the leaders in RBIs. Wally Joyner at 79. What sophomore jinx? Bell and Evans and the rookie McGuire, Joe Carter, Mattingly, and then Winfield right there. Well, Wally Joyner is quietly having a sensational year.
Well, and last year, of course, the tremendous drop-off in the second half, but people don't know that he fell, jammed his shoulder, couldn't lift weights. A lot of the things that had allowed him to have that great first half. This year he's been healthy. Then, of course, that strep infection that kept him out of the playoffs and maybe changed who we saw in the World Series last year.
And Dave Winfield, as quietly, continuing to have a terrific career. A very underrated player, in my opinion. You might say, how can you be underrated in New York with all the headlines and everything? Well, Dave has been maligned somewhat. A lot been said that he is not a winning ball player. I really don't know how you can make that comment. If it's based on the 1-for-22 World Series back in 1981, you certainly can't take that one series and make a comment like that.
Off Straker's glove, and Lombardozzi shovels with the glove and gets him, and that's the only way he could have made that play. Steve Lombardozzi, and you could see him as he approached the ball, set up. He knew exactly what he was going to do. He set himself up and set his feet in such a way as to shovel the ball to Hrbek, and he gets him. 1-4-3.
Watch how Lombardozzi goes one way, and now he really has to adjust, and the little shuffle off to Buffalo.
That's how you lead the American League second basemen in fielding last year, and that's why he's out there. Not a very good hitter, but he gives them great infield defense in the middle of the infield, and that's where you want it. Knows he can't get him with a bare hand, gloves it. Not the percentage toss, but he got Winfield, who runs very well for a big man, 6'6".
Now Pasqua takes outside. Dan Pasqua, the Yankees were hopeful he'd have a big year, but he was slumping. He slumped to the point they had to farm him out for a month, and they just brought him back up yesterday. As he grounds it foul, he arrived late. He arrived during the game in Texas last night. Came up once. He was 0 for 1, and while he was at Columbus in AAA, in 23 games, he hit .341. So the Yankees are hoping that he's got his problems ironed out.
I said, what did you work on? He said, my head. I said, not the stroke, not anything. He said, no. He said, I was too mechanical. I was worried about my mechanics instead of just seeing the ball and trying to hit it. He's the type of guy, and you can see from the size of his arm, there's not a whole lot of indentations when you touch him in the forearm. Tremendous strength. Can hit the ball a long way. A lot of scouts think he has a one-speed bat, that he can't adjust to the breaking ball. And maybe that's one of the reasons he's having problems. But he can sure hit the fastball a long way.
Breaking pitch is pop foul back at first. Ken Hrbek sliding over, but it's well back out of play. Still 1-2.
Of course, Timmy, you know, after playing in 4 decades, that when you come up as a good fastball hitter, the minute you should look at his in-dome stadium stats, pretty impressive. You make an adjustment. You see a guy can hit a fastball, then you're going to find out if he can hit the breaking ball. And if he looks for that too much, starts thinking too much, then you don't hit the fastball or the breaking ball. You just kind of get in between. I think he had a lot of those problems early.
And he takes a breaking pitch, looked like a slider on the inner half of the plate for strike 3.
Again, we go back to Straker. Saw him pitch a couple of weeks ago. What is impressive, he can throw the fastball inside to the lefties. Right there, he threw him 2 or 3 pitches away, and then where does he go? Right inside. Very effective pitch. The ball ran back. Pasqua thought it was a ball. Umpire said it was a strike. Go back to the bench.
Now Pagliarulo. 1-0 the count. At Detroit, the Tigers in the 3rd inning now lead Oakland 4-0. Oakland again a game back of Minnesota as we begin play tonight. Popped up, Gaetti back of 3rd and foul ground. And Straker has begun the first game of this big series by setting down the first 6 Yankees. No score, middle of the 2nd. Ken Hrbek to lead off. His manager is the youngest manager in the big leagues, 36-year-old Tom Kelly, and Ken talks about his boss.
Tom, to me, is a player more than a manager. He's out there with us doing batting practice, taking ground balls, hitting ground balls. He's out there having fun with the guys, and he has fun with the guys in the clubhouse. He plays cards with us. He cheats. He does everything he can to win in the game of cards. he's just a fun guy to be around. A very happy man, and happy to be with the guys that he grew up with in the minor leagues. He managed a couple of guys in the ball club, so he knows us real well, and there's nobody really that knows our team better than Tom Kelly.
And there is Earl Weaver on the left and Jim Palmer on the right. No, that's Tom Sr. and Jr. His son is the bat boy. One of the little perks that comes with having Dad in the dugout.
Well, of course, I did sit next to Earl all those years. I mean, same height differential.
Hrbek leading off in the bottom of the second inning with Brunansky and Lodner to follow. But, you know, the funny thing about Kelly is that the Twins went quite a ways into the offseason last year before they announced their new manager. Kelly had been the interim manager last year. Ray Miller had been fired, and then Kelly had taken over at the end of the year. And then they waited until just about Thanksgiving. And, in fact, some of the players began to intercede on Kelly's behalf and then help sway it.
Well, Ken Hrbek, an interesting remark. Not only does he know his players, he obviously knows his players' playing cards, too. Talking about cheating, we got a scoop here.
Yeah. Check those aces.
Yeah.
1-1 pitch. And it's 2-1. Of course, Hrbek always has been a joker.
Well, so is Tom Kelly, though. I mean, I asked him, I said, how did Les Straker make the ball club? The man we're seeing pitching for him. He said, by default. No, I'm only kidding. He earned it, and he goes on. And he's always a little bit of a, when I left, I wished him good luck. He said, thanks for coming tonight. So, and it's interesting, on this club, it's a very young ball club, even though we've had some guys that played 4 or 5 years. They really don't have a veteran player that is a leader. So here they have a manager that's almost a contemporary that's been there as their third base coach. And I think they feel very comfortable.
Not only are they very young, but they've been young for a long time. 5 years. Hrbek's first year, 1982. Brunansky came over about that time.
Right. And Gaetti.
Gaetti in 1982, his first year.
And then Puckett came along in 84. So they've got a nice little blend here of experience and youth. Brunansky now with Hrbek at first base, held on by Mattingly. And Bruno takes a strike. Brunansky with his 20th home run yesterday, and it's the 6th consecutive season in which Brunansky has hit 20 or more homers. The Twins' record is 7 by who else? Harmon Killebrew.
You saw Brunansky look down at the third base coach, Rick Rennick. Possible hit and run. I don't think so. I asked Tom Kelly before the game if it hit and run with all of his players. He said everybody but Brunansky. Brunansky homered in yesterday's game against the Blue Jays. 20 home runs quicker than at any other point in his career. 150 exactly.
One reason you gamble with a hit and run is Bruno swings and misses a lot.
And Hrbek at 250 pounds doesn't run that well. At 230, he wouldn't run that well. But that's one of Brunansky's strengths, is the fact that he can't hit the long ball, but he does strike out. Maybe this year, I think more. Again, we talked about the maturity. He looks for pitches, will hit the ball the other way, but he's not an ideal hit and run. And when you do that, you take your club out of an ideal situation. Strikes out a lot, 59 times. He's not a percentage play at this point in the game.
He's very consistent in that department. He's been a consistent 250 hitter with the mid-20s to low 30s in homers, but also in strikeouts. His strikeout totals the last 4 years: 95, 94, 86, 98, and he's on that almost exact pace right now.
Well, he's a young player that came up very much like Dan Pasqua that we talked about at the Yankees, where he could hit the fastball, and he's made the adjustment. He looks for breaking balls. He'll get them. He's not a great breaking ball hitter, but you make a mistake, hit the ball up in the strike zone, and he'll lose it.
Brunansky, you saw the graphic, with some pretty good company. The other two men would be Mike Schmidt and Dale Murphy with the 20-plus home runs since 1982, which was the year the Twins moved into this ballpark. Hrbek at first base. Wayne Terwilliger is Minnesota's first base coach. Mattingly holding the runner on. 2 balls, 2 strikes the count. And it's grounded slowly to Pagliarulo. He has one play, first base for the out. as Hrbek goes in hard at second. Kent thought the throw was coming to second, and he was going to make sure he was going to break up what might have been a double play attempt.
Tommy John has told me that Eddie Stanky, his manager with the White Sox, used to offer him a new suit of clothes if he got 20 ground balls of the 27 outs in a 9-inning ball game. Well, he has 3 out of 4 right now, so Tommy has that sinker working for him. That's what a sinker ball pitcher loves to see happen. A big, strong hitter like Brunansky trying to pull the ball, and often that happens, the 5-3 or 6-3 out.
So 1 down now with no score in the second inning, and Tim Loudner, whose theme song should be all or nothing at all. He's hitting 194. An oddity here, how many times do you see a guy with more RBIs than hits? But that's the case. He has 30 hits and 32 runs batted in. And 12 of those 30 hits have been homers. Chopped foul, and the count 0-2. So a very low average, but he's in the lineup because he can jack one out of here.
Also pretty good percentage as a catcher as far as a winning percentage when he does catch. Early in the year, I guess, well, Sal Butera, who's with the ball club now, would share the catching duties. The thing about Laudner is that he said he started the season out with about a 1 for 40, so the batting average for quite a part of the season or a major portion of the season is going to reflect that. But here's a guy that hit 42 home runs in the minor leagues, so when he gets a hold of them, tremendous home run power. Big strike zone, though. John will probably try to come off the plate and then eventually go away, which is where he makes his money. And he's the type of guy that if you come out on the team bus, you say, I'm going to make him bring the ball up, I'm going to make him throw strikes, and then you do exactly what Brunansky did. You swing a ball a little bit out of the strike zone because he's ahead in the count, and he makes you hit his pitch instead of your pitch.
1 ball, 2 strikes the count. Away, and the count 2-2. We can develop it through the broadcast tonight, the fact that, this was originally dubbed the Homer Dome, which is kind of a misnomer, and I think people who really follow the sport understand now that this is not really a place where necessarily more home runs are hit. Laudner would be an example right now that the feeling might be, sure, he plays in Minnesota, he's got 12 home runs. Well, 3 of them have been here, and 9 of them have been hit away. 2-2 pitch is outside, and the count is 3-2. Lou Piniella hitching up his pants and coming to the top step of the dugout. And the 3-2 pitch is fouled away. On deck is Mark Davidson, the number 8 hitter. No score. Bottom of the second inning. Laudner talking about his home run prowess. He also strikes out a lot, 43 times already this season, and that's number 44 in 156 at-bats. I mean, those are Bo Jackson numbers.
And we talked about that sinker just out of the strike zone. He goes to get it. The ball sinks right underneath the bat. Looks like it's going to be a strike. And Laudner likes to get his arms extended, but can't hit that pitch. 3-2. I mean, that's on the black, Timmy.
And you got to keep in mind, Tommy John is not a strikeout pitcher. As a matter of fact, he's only struck out 2.8 hitters per 9 innings. That is the lowest of any pitcher in the major leagues with 10 starts or more.
Mark Davidson, the batter, and the count 1-0. If he's going to get his Ks, though, it's going to be against somebody like a Tim Laudner.
Yeah.
Strike, and the count 1-1.
You've heard of contact hitters. Well, Tommy John's a contact pitcher. He doesn't walk a lot. He's walked only 20. I think that 21 with Hrbek's walk. He struck out 31. He puts the ball in play, as Jim said, most of the time on his terms.
And the count 1-2.
Well, this year he's been so well supported. Last year we saw Roger Clemens 24-4. Red Sox averaged over 6 runs a game. They've gotten Tommy about 7.2 runs a game. So what he gives them is 6 or 7 quality innings. And then you go to Stoddard or Righetti. Stoddard's having a very good year. Righetti struggling, but still getting a lot of saves.
Breaking ball foul away. Well, it's been a good year for Tommy John in many ways. Not only is he 8-3, but he's a guy who was down 9-0 in that game against the Red Sox when the Yankees came back to win it, and he was down 7-0 against Minnesota. So there are 2 sure losses that were erased by sensational rallies.
No doubt those were some of his last decisions when we saw the earned run average well up there over 6 runs a game.
The Yankees, as much as any team in baseball, can just blow you out. Shoe was on the other foot last night in Texas, however.
Funny series, 4-game series. If you turned on the satellite dish in the 2nd or 3rd innings of Thursday or Friday, it was 6 and 7-0. And then the other games were blowouts for Texas.
The one good thing about last night's game, Rick Cerrone got his work in.
Yeah, didn't he, though? On the mound, if you didn't see it. That's in the third, up the third baseline, and moving to third is Herbeck. So Salas able to block it, but it kicks away. And Herbeck is now at third with a full count on Davidson.
I'll tell you, there aren't too many teams who can win a pennant by trading for a regular catcher in the middle of the season. The Yankees trading for Mark Salas. I'm not saying they're not going to win it, but when a catcher has to come over and learn the pitchers, it's a very, very difficult adjustment.
Salas sharing time pretty much with Rick Cerrone. 3-2 to Davidson is grounded to short and right to Tolleson, and he throws him out to retire the side. So the Twins strand a man at third and will go to the third with no score in Minneapolis.
This is Corey McPherrin in New York. Latest on the Braves and the Mets from Shea Stadium. This is Randy O'Neal for Atlanta, and Lenny Dykstra powers it to right center field. This in the bottom of the 2nd inning. Off the wall, that's Howard Johnson scoring. Rafael Santana comes in, makes it a 4-1 score. Mets add 1 more. It's now 5-1 New York in the 4th inning.
And back in Minneapolis, Al Michaels along with Jim Palmer and Tim McCarver at the Metrodome. The 2 division leaders meeting tonight. No score as we go to the 3rd inning. Just to follow up on the Mets situation, Terry Leach was placed on the disabled list today. A pitcher who had been doing a great job for the Mets amidst all of the injuries, especially early on in the season, but he goes on the DL. As we go to the 3rd, Mark Salas, the batter, and he looks at a strike. Salas began the year here, so he was Straker's battery mate when the season began. 1-1.
So I suppose they should know each other. What do you think? The advantage goes to the pitcher? Because even if he hits 300, he's going to make 7 out of 10 outs.
It goes to Salas right here as he hits one into right field for a base hit, and that's the Yankees' first base runner.
I would think it would go to a hitter, Jim, in that particular situation, not because Mark got a base hit, but because by catching a pitcher, you have an idea about what he wants to throw in particular situations. And while you may foul it back, at least you have a pretty good idea, a better idea than everyday players, other everyday players, about what a pitcher will throw you.
Bobby Meacham has come off the disabled list. Meacham started the season at Columbus, called up, and then went on the DL in early July. Luffs a bunt, takes a strike. Bobby, and we mentioned it, I think a couple of weeks ago when we had the Yankees, has been up and down 7 times. 7 times he's been called up in his big league career, and 6 times he's returned to Columbus, and he was on the verge of making a 7th visit, but it became more convenient to put him on the DL when he injured his ankle in Toronto. On the subject of Yankee injuries, remember Mattingly missed almost 3 weeks. Henderson 22 games. Randolph's on the DL right now. Willie underwent arthroscopic knee surgery, and they're hopeful he'll be back in the lineup in mid-August.
I talked to Dave Winfield, who apparently talked to Willie, and he is resting at home. Knee packed in ice, something you do after arthroscopic surgery. So it...
Broken back, grounder down to short. Gagne to Lombardozzi, back to first, double play. Nice stretch by Herbeck. the bat was shattered and the ball was very slowly hit.
Well, if you're going to try to get a double play, a right-handed hitter, you want the bat broken, you jam them, you don't get out of the batter's box. As Al said, a very slow hit ball, but Meacham, without a good jump, easily double. I think it also shows how well the middle infielders, Gagne and Lombardozzi, turn the double play. This is their strength. Right here, as we said, Lombardozzi, we saw the pop fly, a nice catch, turns the double play very well with a strong throw to first.
And the Yankees have grounded into more double plays than any team in the league. It's the 89th time it's happened this year. Thomason takes a strike, 0-1.
Jim, I think you brought up an excellent point, because when right-handed hitters are jammed, it staggers them, shocks them, the shock effect. Doesn't allow them to get out of the box quickly, and that's the reason Meacham was doubled up there. Had the ball, for instance, been outside, you're going toward first base, hit the ball off the end of the bat, and you hit that same ball, Meacham's easily safe at first base. But because the ball popped him inside, then the double play was in effect.
That's one of the reasons that Meacham used to be a switch hitter. Used to hit from both the left and the right side. That's a ball from the left side. If he hits it to the left side, most likely you only get one.
Thomason gets backed off the plate on an 0-2 pitch, and it's 1-2 on the switch-hitting Yankee shortstop. 2 down, bases empty, top of the 3rd inning. No score. Still 1-2 on Wayne, with Ricky Henderson, the leadoff man, on deck. Wes Straker working for Minnesota. Thomason doing a nice job. The graphic earlier reflected the type of season he has had, though he's tailed off offensively. Straker, meanwhile, 27 years old, born and raised in Venezuela, and finally making it to the big leagues, and strikes Thomason out looking. And he has faced a minimum 9 through 3. After 2.5, no score. No score as we head to the bottom of the 3rd inning in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, the Metrodome, home of the first place Twins. Steve Lombardozzi will be leading things off here in the bottom of the 3rd inning, and here's the play he made earlier to take a base hit away from Dave Winfield.
Well, important play, only that it was started out the inning. One of the key outs to get is that first out. Obviously the 3rd one too, but nice when you get a big play like that on a ball that might have been a base hit.
He's 4 for 9, as you saw, against Tommy John, and that's one of the reasons he's in the lineup tonight. Tony Oliva, now a Twins coach, and he saw his teammate, his longtime teammate Rod Carew, honored here yesterday. Carew had his number retired. Harmon Killebrew's number has already been retired. And it wouldn't surprise too many people if number 6 finds its way up in the rafters pretty soon.
One of the best hitters that I ever faced in almost 20 years. I mean, could hit the ball a long way, slice it down the left field line, hit for average and power. Very much like Mattingly, where if you pitch him away, it's down the left field line for a double. You pitch him in and quick enough to pull the ball. Excellent breaking ball. He's one of those guys like Roberto Clemente. You have this scouting report. They said, if you throw him a breaking ball, you might be able to get away with it once, but don't do it twice.
1-1 the count on Steve Lombardozzi, the number 9 hitter. The Phillies lead Cincinnati 4-0 in the 4th. Houston has the lead at Montreal. The Expos have won 7 straight, and we told you about the Mets in Atlanta, 5-1 New York in the 4th. That's grounded fair by Pagliarulo and into left field, and Lombardozzi is on his way to second and in standing with a double. And he's now 5 for 10 lifetime against Tommy John.
Well, for the 3rd straight inning, the Twins have gotten their leadoff man on, and this one just inside the bag. No chance for Pagliarulo. Well, Lombardozzi with double number 9 on the year.
And it brings up Dan Gladden. I have to laugh because I'm thinking about he's 5 for 10. Our man Steve Hurd, who has co-authored the Elias Baseball Analyst, which is a sensational book, and this is an unabashed plug for it, but why not? He has a section in the book, loves to face, hates to face, as Gladden hits one down to Mattingly, and he'll make the play, and down to third goes Lombardozzi. But there's a section in there with each individual player, loves to face, hates to face, meaning he loves to face the guy he's done the best against statistically, hates to face the guy he's done the worst against statistically. But I think it was Mike Davis of the A's picked that book up and said, what is this? This guy loves to face me? And he wound up, it was McGregor, and he wound up getting a hit off him as if McGregor had been quoted as saying, I love to face Mike Davis.
When you talk about statistics, one thing that doesn't show up in statistics is what Dan Gladden just did. Move the runner to third base, and now he can score. Lombardozzi can score on something other than a base hit. The middle of the infield playing back. Here on the rug, you can actually play in by playing halfway. The ball gets to you in a hurry.
That's a comebacker, and Tommy John does exactly what you have to do. Run right at the runner, throws to Pagliarulo. Now Salas to run him back toward third, and they're taking too many throws here, and it's Mattingly who winds up with the ball and gets the out, but down to second goes Gagne. So Lombardozzi did as good a job as can be expected, and he almost got Gagne to third. Gagne had rounded the bag.
What you really want to do is get Gagne to second. That's your priority, and Lombardozzi with a good job. As you said, John did a good job running right at him. But the second throw a little bit quick from Pagliarulo, and here's Mattingly to make the tag, but in the process, Gagne moves to second base.
1-5-2-5-3 is how it goes into the book.
Sounds like a zip code.
Well, we know why John got rid of the ball, because you run the guy back to third, but it looked like Pagliarulo said, let's not have him running towards home. Threw it to Salas, and then eventually the tag. You know, that's a play you work on every day of spring training, and you still have this great apprehension when it happens during the game. So you only take maybe 1 or 2 throws maximum, and every time you see it, even on a good defensive ball club, the Yankees are, it takes 4 or 5 throws.
Puckett at the plate. 0-1 the count with 2 down now, and Kirby hits a little squibber up the line, and Salas will let it roll, and that's a wise decision. 0-2 the count.
Well, one of the reasons is obviously that in spring training you're working that rundown play against less determined runners.
Yeah, pitchers.
Teammates.
Yeah, pitchers.
Yeah, and pitchers.
They don't want to be running. What, get hit in the head, the back of the head? Are you out of your mind?
As a matter of fact, with the Mets spring training before last, Mookie Wilson suffered a very serious injury in a rundown play. Going over the rundowns, he was hit in his glasses. They shattered and could have ended up much worse than it really was.
One of those necessary evils of spring training. Get your rundowns and your pickoffs to a point where you can work them well during the season. A lot of times you see guys getting injured.
2 strikes on Kirby Puckett. And it's still 0-2 with no score, 2 down. Gagne at second base in the bottom of the 3rd inning.
Looks like the All-Star game. In the morning paper today, Puckett, and I talked to Kirby before the game, he said that I am not seeing the ball well. Rod Carew had his uniform retired yesterday. He said, I wish I had hit that man's eyes at the plate. He said, I don't see the ball well. I'm swinging at balls, and he is definitely expanding the strike zone.
6 for his last 40, as you saw, and all 6 hits were singles. And in the All-Star game, you'll recall, he was 0 for 4 and struck out 3 times.
Of course, that doesn't mean you can't hit, considering who he was facing. I mean, some pretty tough guys.
But they still love him, and well, they should. He's quite a guy away from the field as well. And he reaches out and grounds it down to Mattingly, who makes the one-hand scoop, and it's 3 unassisted to end the bottom of the 3rd. No runs, a double by Lombardozzi, no score after 3. ABC's Monday Night Baseball is being brought to you by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. In a few years, Rickey Henderson may be the all-time stolen base champ. I asked him how important it would be to break Lou Brock's record.
I think it's very important for me to break Lou Brock mark based upon him, because when I first came into the Major League, I met Lou Brock when he was broadcasting, and he said that the way he looked at me still at base, I will be the one to break his record. So that's been on my mind, and that's been a goal for me in baseball to achieve. So I think it'd be very important for me.
Well, right now, Rickey Henderson has 685 lifetime steals. Brock's mark was 938. So Rickey is not that far away if he stays healthy, wealthy, and wise.
And he hasn't done that. Shoulder injury curtailed his running because he does steal. He dives head first. Then the hamstring injury kept him out a lot longer than they anticipated. Looks like after leading the American League, the last 7 years, that could be in jeopardy. Of course, if he gets healthy, he can steal a lot of bases in a hurry.
Well, when you think about it, it's a lot harder for a base stealer to have a long career compared to a slugger or a pitcher or a short man in the bullpen, because of what they have to do to be successful. Now, Henderson does a lot of other things, obviously. 28 home runs last year, 11 so far this year. He can hit 300 too, but still the primary part of his game is running.
Half swing foul, still 1-2 on Henderson, who'll be followed by Washington and Mattingly.
Well, he's the type of hitter that if you're a pitcher, you want to pitch to ahead in the count, because then if there's any time he is going to swing at some balls, that's when you have the advantage, as Les Straker has right here with a 1-2 count. Otherwise, you pretty much have to throw his type of pitch. Right there, good breaking ball down and away.
And a shallow fly ball caught by Mark Davidson for the out. So Henderson is gone. The Yankees have had just one base runner. That was Mark Salas, who singled, and he was erased on the ensuing Meacham double play. Update some scores for you. The Tigers lead Oakland 4-0 in Detroit in the 6th inning, back of Jeff Robinson. Robinson had a no-hitter going into the 6th inning, but Tony Bernazar just picked up by the A's, broke it up. California leads Boston 2-0 in the 5th. And Cleveland 1-0 over Kansas City in the 2nd. Willie Frazier was removed from the game at Fenway after he was hit by a Wade Boggs line drive off his right hand, and that's the last thing that Gene Mauch needs right now, with John Candelaria on the DL and Kurt McCaskill back but shaky. Claudell Washington at the plate. If you heard some rumbling through our crowd mics, that's thunder from outside. There are severe weather watches in the Minnesota area. Washington takes outside, and the count is 1-1.
Just your type of weather.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I wish I was flying out tonight. Oh, yeah. But even though we're protected from the elements, you can still hear what's going on outside. 1-2.
And it's not like this dome is impregnable.
That's right. Sometimes not only can you hear it, you can feel it. Snow, occasionally rain, and certainly not the bats tonight. Great pitching on from both Tommy John and Les Straker.
So the thunder's got to be from above, right?
Exactly.
2-2 the count. And I'll be darned. I thought I saw a flash of lightning through the translucent roof, and that has to be it, because there's the thunder behind it. 2-2 pitch. Got him swinging. So if we were playing at Old Metropolitan Stadium right now, we'd be in a rain delay. But it's nice and comfy cozy in the dome. 2 down. Oh, yeah. On the other side of that curtain, folks. Red sky at night, sailor's delight, right?
I thought you made a rather salient point last night on the plane, saying that if you did want to build the perfect dome, so to speak, if there is such a thing, you want to have a retractable roof. So if you do have good weather,
you can take advantage of it. Yes. Mattingly hits it right back to Straker, and Straker very sharp through 4. Second time he's gotten Mattingly. Still 0-0 in the middle of the 4th inning. And also a look tonight at Muhammad Ali, the man and his mystique, Angelo Dundee, Jimmy Jacobs, Joe Frazier among those who will discuss that subject on Monday Sports Night following Nightline. Al Michaels with Tim McCarver and Jim Palmer, Metrodome. In Minneapolis, pitchers duel through 3.5. Tommy John at 44, and the rookie Les Straker. Gary Gaetti to lead things off in the bottom of the 4th. Middle of the order, Gaetti, Herbeck, and Brunansky. Gaetti flying to right in the 1st inning. So Gary comes up hitting .250, 17 homers, 55 runs batted in. Pulled the string. 0-1.
That's that new pitch he came up with as we look at the American League scores.
And east of here in Milwaukee, it's raining. Toronto leads Texas 1-0 in the 2nd. Baltimore and Chicago no score in the 3rd. 1-1.
Guess we'd call that evolution of a pitcher. Pitch for what, about 22, 23 years. You decide you need a couple of more pitches, so you come up with them.
And Herbeck waiting on deck as John works on Gaetti with the count 2-1.
And then you pitch another 22 or 23 years, right?
But what did he say? His arm is only 13 after the operation. His arm was just bar mitzvah, he said. Grounded down to short. Thomason throws to Mattingly for the out, 1 away. How old is Tommy John? As Johnny Carson would say, just how old is he? Or as David Letterman would put it up, 4 reasons why he's older than you think. Only current player in the majors who played during the Kennedy administration. 3 big league pitchers were born the day of John's 2nd win. Would be Floyd Yeomans, Bobby Witt, and Jeff Sellers. The time of his first victory, 134. They don't play him that way anymore. As Herbeck hits a ground ball to the right side, and Mattingly makes the play unassisted. But the prime reason, Tommy John and his longevity, in his first major league game, he gave up a hit to Don Zimmer. Now that's old. I mean, that's ancient.
Little thrill cam action there, huh?
Yeah, right. Oh, boy. 2 down, and Brunansky takes a strike on the outside corner. So that answers the question, just how old is Tommy John? But then again, when you talk about Tommy John, there's Phil Niekro, who's 4 years older than him.
Of course, he more or less has a freak pitch, one that I'd like to have had. I'd still be pitching, or at least trying to throw that knuckleball.
That's off the end of the bat and down to 2nd, and Bobby Meacham throws him out. And it's a 1-2-3 inning for TJ. No score through 4. Back after this message and news headlines from your local station.
Toronto trying to gain some ground on New York. Blue Jays and Rangers in Texas. This is Corey McPherrin in New York. Garth Orge, top of the 2nd inning, takes one deep to left field. It is gone. Blue Jays lead it 1-0. The Jays 3 games behind New York.
And the Yankees right now and the Twins are scoreless as we proceed to the 5th inning in the Metrodome in Minneapolis, with Dave Winfield, Dan Pasqua, and Mike Pagliarulo coming up. The 27-year-old rookie from Venezuela, Les Straker, who spent 7 seasons in the Cincinnati farm system, gets Winfield a swing and miss on his first offering here in the 5th. 7 seasons in anonymity in the Reds chain, 1 with the Oakland A's, released there, and then picked up by the Twins. Chopper, Gagne has to back up. Tough play, throws, gets it! Greg Gagne had to make a decision, and he made the right one as it turned out. He had to back up on that ball, and Herbeck with a great stretch made it look relatively simple.
Yeah, because Gagne, had he charged the ball, he thought that he might be getting an in-between hop. And it was interesting to see him rearrange, as you see the stretch by Herbeck, but rearrange the position of the feet. To be a good middle infielder or an infielder on the left side of the infield, you've got to have quick feet, and that's often overlooked or underlooked, as the case might be.
Pasqua hits one toward the gap for a base hit and more as it rolls to the fence. Puckett picks it up on the warning track, and Pasqua has himself a double. So Dan, who has come back from the minor leagues, picks up the Yankees' 2nd hit of the night. and first extra base hit.
Remember the last time a strikeout on a ball inside, just looking for the fastball right in the middle of the plate, extends his arms, good hip turn. We talked about how strong he is, and he shoots it up the gap, put a runner in scoring position.
So Pasco at second, one down. Pagliarulo the batter. Just thinking the way Herbeck stretches at first base, we're going to have to put him up there one of these days with Nadia, Olga, and Mary Lou. Pagliarulo drives one to deep right field, and Davidson goes back and watches this one go out of here. Home run. Number 18 for Mike Pagliarulo. And it gives him 50 runs batted in for the season. 2-0 Yankees.
Brings up an interesting point. A lot of people are looking for why more home runs have been hit. We keep hearing the ball is not more lively, but here's a slider. When you throw an off-speed pitch, what you do is speed up the bat. Looks like he went out and got it, allowed the bat head to be out in front of the plate. Instead, if it was a fastball away, that ball would have gone to left field. Pagliarulo's power is not to left field. He got the bat head out in front, put it right over the screen.
And Salas drives one into the corner, but hooking foul. And so the Yankees beginning to tee off now. Pasco with a double, Pagliarulo the home run, and Salas with a loud strike.
That obviously doesn't mean you don't throw off speed stuff, but by speeding up the bat, what you hope to do, and the deception of the hitter, as Pags is showing how he did it, you want to actually speed up the body too, and that's what happened with Pagliarulo. He didn't let his body speed up, but the bat did. That's what waiting and having quick hands is all about.
1 ball, 1 strike to count. Salas at the plate, 1 out, bases empty. And he grounds that one to the right side. Lombardozzi to Herbeck for the out. And there are 2 down with Bobby Meacham coming to the plate. Meacham hit into a double play in the 3rd inning. Again, Bobby will see some action now with Randolph on the shelf. The Yankees will have to go with Paul Zuvella and Bobby Meacham. Meanwhile, the A's may have picked up not necessarily a division title, but certainly they picked up a key player when Tony Phillips got hurt, their second baseman, and they went out and got Tony Bernazard from Cleveland.
Key acquisition, and you wonder, I mean, even though he's been having somewhat of a struggle this year after hitting over 300, here's that guy that can turn a double play, can hit some home runs. After hitting 300, hitting around 230, but you need a second baseman, and all of a sudden, voila, here he comes to the West Coast. So very hard to replace a Tony Phillips, yet they were able to do it in a matter of days. Well, I guess it says a lot about the expectations that Cleveland had early in the year, and really the dismal type of year they've had it collectively over in Cleveland.
3-0 pitch is ball 4. The point really here is that the A's traded for a frontline guy, and a guy who will probably keep Phillips out of the lineup even when he is healthy, whereas the Yankees just have to wait 3 to 4 weeks until Randolph comes back and make do with Zuvella and Meacham.
Tom Kelly, the Twins manager, looked a little bit anxious is because they do not have a lot of depth in the bullpen here, especially tonight. I mean, we talked about Jeff Reardon with the 19 saves, Keith Apperton, but they went through their pitching staff yesterday. So he'd like to see a couple of more innings from Straker to get him into Atherton and Reardon range.
And I think he'd like to also rest Juan Berenguer right now.
Well, he's having some flexor tendon problems in his right elbow, and he's done everything for him. Having an excellent year, but they've started him, they've relieved him, and it's paying its toll.
And the key thing, if he does go to his bullpen, he'll have to come in with a right-hander, because Dan Schatzeder was the left-hander who pitched 3 2/3 innings yesterday, picking up the win against the Blue Jays.
Dick Such is the pitching coach, such as it is. I like it. Who said that? Dick Such, who was the pitching coach at Texas when Doug Rader was there. There's a man who in 1967 in the minor leagues in York, Pennsylvania, he had a record of 0-16. And his earned run average, if you can believe this, was 2.81. The pitch in for a strike, and the count 1-1.
So he knows what it's like to struggle.
Well, I would say. Tommy John.
So does he.
Not too often, though. His biggest struggle last year was a strained Achilles tendon and then falling off the mound and fracturing his left thumb late in the year. That and his short term down at the University of North Carolina.
I mean,
for philosophical reasons.
Yeah, the fact that he's pitching at all, even the last dozen years, is a miracle to modern medicine.
Dr. Frank Jobe with, at that time, radical surgery, which has become, I don't want to say commonplace, but you're seeing it more and more. The transplantation of the tendon.
It's from your, well, I guess in his case, you either take it from the leg or the right wrist, you put it in there, you graft it, and he came back. In fact, out in Los Angeles, read where the #1 draft choice for the Dodgers never got on the mound. I think by the name of
Dan Opperman,
Dan
from
Opperman.
Las Vegas, Nevada, yeah.
A lot of scouts backed off him because he had elbow problems his senior year. They paid him somewhere around $160,000, and he had to have that same kind of surgery, so we wish him well.
Meacham goes. Tolleson grounds it to short, and Gagne juggles it but recovers in time and throws him out. Within the inning, the Yankees take the lead on a homer by Pagliarulo. It's 2-0 New York after 4½. The Metrodome in Minneapolis, where the New York Yankees lead the Minnesota Twins 2-0 at the end of 4½. A battle of division leaders. Yanks on top by 3 in the East. Twins on top by 1 in the West at the outset tonight. And with the Yankees on top 2-0 on a home run by Mike Pagliarulo, the Twins sending up the bottom of the order Tim Loudner, the catcher, then Davidson and Lombardozzi. Tommy John, through 4 innings, has allowed no runs, 2 hits, walked 1, struck out 1. 0-1 on Loudner, who struck out in the 2nd inning.
Really, excuse me, I'm sorry. You just see how big a swing Loudner has. So you can see where he generates his power, but you can also see why he does strike out a lot. Big, big, big swing.
Well, he was up before. We were talking about the fact he's hit more homers on the road than at home, and we were going to get into the fact that this is a somewhat misnamed ballpark, the nickname anyway, the Homer Dome. Well, the numbers will prove that what happens here is that it's conducive to scoring more runs and having higher batting averages, generally speaking, but not at all in terms of homers. And one good point I think to bring out would be you take a look at the guys that provide the power for the Twins generally in their lineup with Puckett and Gaetti and Herbeck and Brunansky, the 4 of them, and they have done it now for a few seasons. When you look at their composite numbers, those 4 together have hit more home runs on the road than in Minnesota.
Well, they're the type of guys that are going to hit home runs anywhere because they're just home run hitters. But similar to any artificial turf, AstroTurf, they have a new AstroTurf field they put in right before this season. You have more runs scored on AstroTurf mainly because you have more doubles and triples and more runners in scoring position.
And you talk about the lively baseball debate now. I guess the baseball was lively back in 1982 when this dome really got the name the Homer Dome, because that was before the air conditioning was on.
There's a drive to deep left field. Going back is Henderson, looking up, leaping up, and can't make the catch. As it glances off his glove, Loudner will be held by Rennick at third. A towering drive. Henderson may have had a little trouble finding it. It looked like he was gauging it, and the ball may have hit the webbing of the glove. We'll have to see on the replay.
That's only the 3rd career triple for Tim Loudner, and this ball came awfully close
Off
to
the
hitting
glass.
the roof. I mean, that ball was a major league drive.
Something like 186 feet to the roof. And again, as Al said, this is one of the more difficult. We used to come in here and outfielders would be complaining all the time. It's just hard to pick up the ball off the bat. But once it gets up there, you're looking white ball, white roof. Not to say he should have caught that because he's not that tall. but he made an excellent effort. But he got back, did everything right except catch the ball.
Yeah, the replay proved that he never touched it. It bounced off the glass just out of his reach. That plexiglass is 13 feet high in left. And with the infield back at short and second, Tollefson will throw him out at first. And after Laudner had hesitated, had Tollefson come home, he might have had a chance. The way the Yankees were aligned, Pagliarulo was shallow at third, and Laudner thought that Pagliarulo was going to make the play when Tollefson was deep. And had Tollefson thrown home, he probably would have had him.
And the reason Laudner hesitated, even though with the infield back, sometimes if you're the runner on third base, it's hard to determine whether the third baseman can make the play or not. And because the third baseman is in closer, he would be more inclined to come home. That's why he hesitated. But I'll guarantee you, Tollefson gets him if he elects to come home.
But Tollefson was positioned deep at short, thus he's thinking first base, and Laudner, after hesitating, really steals a run in that instance. A strike to Lombardozzi, 0-1.
Of course, that's a play that you know that you're playing back, even though Laudner doesn't have good spirit. You're so geared to get the one out, especially with a 2-0 lead, that you don't even think about it, and then you're already coming to your right, means you have to throw back. Last thing you think about is a play at the plate.
So it's 2-1. Another look right now. Pagliarulo was shallow and Tollefson was deep.
If you're Laudner on third base, that's why you delay, because Pagliarulo went after the ball. And now by the time you start up, Tollefson has an easy play if he elects to go home, but he took the sure out at first.
And Laudner started in and then stopped and then realized he was too far committed and had to come home. And he was just praying that he wouldn't see the ball wind up in the mid of Salas, and he didn't. 1-2 is an off-speed pitch, popped up. Mattingly comes through the coaching box to make the catch, and Lombardozzi becomes out number 2. 2 down.
I'll tell you, Jim, he is using that straight changeup very effectively tonight.
Well, and also what he used it right there was for an out, but what he's done is he's thrown it enough so that all the hitters on the bench, the guys on deck, will look for it. And if you get it over once or twice, that's all you have to do sometimes. It is definitely, looks like maybe his third or definitely his fourth pitch tonight, but he's used it enough to make the hitter look for it, and that makes all the other pitches more effective.
That ground out to air outs chart is a good one to use, and that's quintessential John. 11 ground outs and only 2 balls hit in the air for outs, and 1 K. Gladden. Fair ball knocked down by Pagliarulo, and he has no play. Jim McKeon right there to call it. So Gladden will get an infield single on a ground ball right over the bag.
Pagliarulo playing up, and he goes to his right, and this ball clearly fair, and Pags can't come up with it. And Dan Gladden has another base hit, his second of the night.
Well, that's turf ball. I used to pitch on the turf. I look at my third baseman. He's about 5 or 6 steps this side of third base towards home plate. You know if they hit the ball sharply, it's going to get by him unless it's hit right at him. And that's what you have to do when you have a guy like Gagne that can bunt. Or excuse me, Gladden. I mean, Gladden, Gagne, both guys handle the bat very well. We talked about his stolen bases. 17 on the year, can run. You have to defense him shallow, and you hit the ball right by the third baseman.
And a pitch out with Gladden not moving, and the count 1-0. 2-1 Yankees, 2 out, bottom of the 5th inning. Gladden with 17 steals at first base, and he had 3 yesterday.
Tommy John not with a very good move, I was about to say. And you could see 6 for 6. He's the type of guy you can guess with. If you guess that he's going home, his delivery is so slow that you're going to beat the throw. Salas does not throw that well.
Pagliarulo has it off his glove, picked up by Tollefson. Played at first. And Minnesota has runners at first and second. Greg Gagne keeps it going, and it will bring up Kirby Puckett.
Again, defense in because Gagne with 6 bunt base hits last year. You see Palliarolo, great effort. Tollefson knows the speed that Gladden has, chooses to go to first. It's his only play and keeps the ball in front of him. You take a chance of getting the out, but it's not a play that you think you're really going to get an out on.
Yeah, he probably shouldn't have thrown the ball, but I'm glad he did because we got the chance to see it.
It's like a desperation toss, but it's a controlled desperation toss.
Yeah.
You know you can't have much on it. You're going towards left field.
Now Puckett, after 2 infield singles, John working them away as he did the first 2 times tonight. Kirby has grounded out twice to the right side.
And if Kirby's had a meeting with himself, the meeting should have consisted of, hey, I have not swung at a strike yet. Let's try to be a little more disciplined. Let him throw the ball over the plate.
He takes that one for a strike, and it's 1-1.
That's a great luxury you have as a shortstop. When you have a guy that's won 2 Gold Gloves at first, you just figure, I'll make the throw. He's going to come up with it anyway.
Sure, why not? It does look like Puckett is taking a different approach to Tommy John this at bat.
Well, now will be the key. 2-1. He's in a situation where, as a pitcher, you know you don't have to throw a strike, but you'd rather choose to do that. I mean, you read the stats, you know the 34 home runs from last year, only 14 this year, but he's hitting over 330. Not an easy out.
2-1, 2 on, 2 out. Yanks ahead, 2-1. And he grounds it again to the right side. Meacham to Tollefson in time for the force. And so the Twins settle for a run, 3 hits. It's 2-1 New York after 5. Back after this word for your local station.
Interesting play in that Toronto-Texas game. Bottom of 2, Jays up 2-1. Texas' Steve Buechele cracks one to the corner in left field. Pete Incaviglia around third. He'll score easily. Larry Parrish coming around as well. The relay. Play at the plate coming up in the dirt. Looks out, called safe. Not a popular call in Texas right now. The score is tied at 2.
And here in Minnesota, we go to the 6th inning, with the New York Yankees leading the Minnesota Twins 2-1. In the top of the order coming up, Ricky Henderson, who made this effort in the bottom of the 5th inning on the drive by Tim Laudner.
Did everything right. The ball just carries a little bit too much. Ricky, what, about 5'9", 5'10"? If he's 6'3", most likely catches that ball.
0-1 the count on Henderson.
But if he's 6'3", he probably doesn't have 685 career stolen bases.
Right.
And that's what's so amazing about Henderson. Here's a guy that, I mean, you know, I think about him as here's a guy that stole 130 bases, yet he had 28 home runs last year. On-base percentage well over 40% of the time. If he does get on, it's a double. Of course, the key to pitching the Yankees is keeping him off base, having Randolph on the DL, who's having a great year with the knee, the arthroscopic surgery. Then you don't have to pitch to Mattingly with Winfield with guys on base.
As a matter of fact, Mattingly, with all those RBIs last year, 113, drove in Henderson 40 times. And the year before, when he had 145 RBIs, he drove in Ricky 56 times.
Ricky's out there a lot, and that's been the case this year. 433 on base percentage. That's second in the league to Wade Boggs. 1-2 to him is grounded to short. Gagne over to Herbeck for the out, and Henderson with a 10-game hitting streak is 0 for 3. U.S. Women's Open Golf Championship coming your way this weekend on ABC Sports. Plainfield, New Jersey is the site. Saturday coverage begins at 2:30 Eastern Time. And then a lightweight fight, Pernell Whitaker in his hometown of Norfolk, Virginia, takes on Miguel Santana on Wide World, along with the Calgary Stampede Rodeo and the Athlete of the Week award. Claudell Washington takes a strike. 0-1 the count. With Claudell, it's always been a case of potential, living up to potential, and how often he's heard it. But that's what happens when, as a rookie or in your first full season anyway, you hit 308, and then you never hit 300 again. And that's what happened to him in 1975. So they keep waiting for you to do it again, and when you don't do it, they keep saying you don't live up to your potential.
Well, Straker got him the time before with a good breaking ball. Here he established the fastball, throws the changeup, looking to go down and away. Claudel out on that front foot, changing speeds. That's what pitching is so much about. Get him out there. Hands are gone. Not much you can do but grope for the ball, and he missed it.
Now Mattingly hits a soft line drive to Herbeck for the out. Sedon is 0 for 3, and keep in mind he's got that streak going of extra base hits. The American League record of 10, and that's in jeopardy. The Major League mark by Paul Wainer is 14. Still 2-1 New York. All right, who wants to play Harry Carey? We'll lead the crowd and take me out to the ball game.
All right, everybody.
Okay, 1, 2. McCarver's dinner, folks. All the comforts of home here in the Metrodome in Minneapolis. Quite a contrast, of course, for you to come into a place like this after so many years at the old Met out in Bloomington.
I pitched here when it was the Homer Dome, before they had the air conditioning, and it's not exactly one of those places you want to pitch. I always felt that this is one of the few places that I pitched where I felt home plate was too close to the fences.
That really did make a difference. The 1 year without the AC, and then in 1983.
Well, when they built the stadium, they wanted to come in under budget. A rather radical approach to doing that. Should have left off the roof. Something like that. It's very warm.
Gary Gaetti to lead things off in the bottom of the 6th inning. 2-1 New York. Tommy John has gone all the way. And behind, now 2-0, Ron Guidry, who goes to the mound tomorrow night.
Having a conversation with Steve Trout. Pitched his first game in the American League for a while yesterday.
Gave up 5 runs in 5 innings in Texas. Thomason has to wait for it and is able to throw him out. So Thomason takes care of Gaetti, 1 down, and it will bring up Herbeck. With the Yankees getting beaten last night by a score of 20-3, they were remarkably consistent in terms of pitching. Trout gave up 5 runs. Bordy gave up 5 runs. Stoddard gave up 5 runs, and Pat Clements gave up 5. You talk about equal opportunity.
Clements said he has never ever been hit harder in his life. Of course, it's great to come in and one of those, you know, when you come in with a mop in the bucket, it's 15-2 or something. Yeah. Go get them, guys, with a lot of intensity.
So those guys each gave up a 5 spot, and then Cerrone came in and retired the 3 men he faced.
And threw 2 knuckleballs in the process.
And balked. Oh, boy. High comedy yesterday at Arlington. 20-3. And there is Cerrone down in the bullpen. I guess that's where he belongs now.
That was his ready sign.
There are his career figures.
He was saying, I'm ready.
ERA of 0.
Yeah, but not exactly the type of guy that if you're a starting pitcher you want coming in. He gave up both runs on base, or at least 2 out of the 3.
Herbeck grounds out to Meacham, and quickly 2 down with Brunansky coming up. Well, let's take a look at it. In fact, as we find it, let's go to the tape. Last night, what emotion. And that was Bobby Witt, the Texas pitcher, who had pinch hit for Incaviglia, who almost hit a home run. Yeah, right. Brunansky fouls it away. Of course, you can enjoy moments like that when you're losing 20-3 because you're in first place.
Well, no doubt, playing in 4 decades, you were a part of that. I was up in Toronto when Elrod Hendricks, a catcher, came in after the score was 24-10, baffled him for 2 innings. Looked like Stu Miller coming back to make a comeback. He was throwing so slowly. Did you ever pitch, Tim?
No, I never did. No. I would have
2 the count.
If I had, I would have had to have worn my equipment out there.
Not a bad idea.
Wasn't a bad idea when I tried to play first either. It was an interesting experiment in '73 in that catchers are taught to block balls, and I blocked a lot of them. I just didn't catch many.
0-2 pitches inside.
Saying that kind of tongue-in-cheek, but that's true. When catchers go to another position, especially an infield position, any ball in the dirt or on the ground, they're trained to block. And when you move to a position, you gotta catch them. You're not used to catching balls unless they're in the air. All the other balls you go to block. That at least is how I've reasoned my failure as a first baseman all these years.
Talk about guys playing out of position. The other night, Boston had to go with Mike Greenwell to catch in an emergency situation. He wound up throwing a ball away, and the A's went on to win the game in extra innings. 2-2 to Bernansky is grounded to third. Pagliarulo backs up, stays with it nicely, and guns him down. And there's your basic Tommy John inning when you look in the scorebook. 6-3, 4-3, 5-3. And at the end of 6, it's New York 2, Minnesota 1. ABC's Monday Night Baseball is being brought to you by Coors, the beer with a difference worth tasting. Coors is the one. Going to the 7th inning now in Minneapolis, where the Yankees lead by a score of 2-1. Dave Winfield tonight, first time up in the 2nd inning, hit it off Straker's glove, and this nice play was made by Lombardozzi. And then he had a chopper, and Gagne made a nice play to back up on it and gun him down, and that came in the 5th inning. So the big man is 0 for 2 as he stands in, batting .285. Straker, who's pitched well tonight. He made a couple of mistakes in the 5th inning. Pasqua doubling to the gap in right center, and then Pagliarulo took him out. 2-1 Yankees. 1-1.
Straker's longest outing this year, 7 1/3 innings. He's done that twice. But he does have a complete game. Now you might say, how can that happen? A 4 1/3 inning complete game lost to the Kansas City Royals on a home run by Bo Jackson, 3-2, and obviously the skies opened.
Royals got 3 in the 5th, and it rained, and they couldn't restart the game, and it was official as Gagne throws him out. So Winfield has now grounded out 3 times. That's appropriate, because there is the son of, you guessed it, Joe Niekro. One of the bat boys tonight. He knows how to grip that baseball, doesn't he?
With his knuckles.
What up, baby?
Sitting next to Frank Viola.
Yeah.
We saw him 2 weeks ago with a masterful performance.
That's great.
He's asking the wrong guy.
Yeah. You know, Frank, you're getting long in the tooth is what he's saying. It's about time to start thinking about that knuckleball. Pasqua. It's a high drive to right center field. Going back, all the way back, as Kirby Puckett leaps up and makes. Does he know it hit the fence? And so it's in play and a triple. For just an instant, it looked like it had popped out of his glove, and he was ready to make the catch, and he's going to contend that he did. And out there is Kraft, the umpire, taking John Shulock's place, who is saying, no, it hit the fence.
Tom Kelly will come out to argue this play. Watch Puckett timing his jump perfectly. Now it hit the fence right there.
Yep. Ball.
Yep. Good call. And Tom Kelly, the manager of the Twins, really has to take the word of Kirby Puckett.
Well, Kirby may not know the rules. If you trap it against the fence or it hits your glove and then the fence and you catch it, he may think it's well and out. It's like catching coming back to the screen. You pin the ball against the backstop. You have to receive the ball. It can't hit the screen or anything before it goes into your glove. Again, Tom Kelly doing what you're supposed to do as a manager. You go out there and argue for your players. And especially knowing you have a rookie umpire out here, maybe you'll get the call reversed. Sure. And that's a new fence that was not here in 1982. Put up a couple of years ago. That would have been a home run back in '82, which again leads to the Homer Dome theory. No air condition. Another look at Pucky. Pucky, that's a good nickname for him. High as he can go. Trapping it, catching it, thinking it's an out, but it isn't.
Another look now.
There.
Yeah. Hit it first. And with the infield playing in, Pagliarulo was at the plate with Pasqua given a triple at third. And they're going to walk Pagliarulo intentionally now with the count 1-0. And Mark Salas on deck. Now that's a real tough call here with that canvas screen. I think it's much tougher for an umpire because you're going to get the impression against that screen, which is going to create that crease, which I think would make it even tougher for an umpire to discern.
Well, that's why you have to get out there as far as you can. And Gary Kraft looked like he did that. He was way out there.
It's a good call.
And if you just stand around second base and try to make that call, it's like looking from up here. I didn't really know it was trapped until I saw it on the replay.
That's a funny little area, too, because if you hit it over the shorter fence on the left side and into the seats, that's the home run. But where that screen starts, and that screen is 23 feet high. That's I believe, the tallest barrier in baseball.
I think
outside the left field wall at Fenway.
I think you make a good point, Al, because if that were a hard surface right there, you wouldn't be able to make the indentation that could eventually come up with a clean catch, which is what Puckett almost did then. You can actually depress that material right there.
You can also depress the lower fence, and this is a tough outfield. We talked about not seeing the ball, but there's also standards out there that are not that well padded. So luckily that ball was hit high enough so an outfielder has a chance to go back and then make his leap.
Meanwhile, the Twins now hopeful of inducing Salas to hit a ground ball. The infield at double play depth with runners at first and third. And he fouls it away, and the count is 1-1.
The reason Pagliarulo was walked was because of your infield depth. As you see George Frazier now up and throwing. If you pitch to Pagliarulo, you have to bring your infield in. By walking him, you set up the double play situation, and both Lombardozzi and Gagnier in double play depth.
1-1 to Salas is outside, and if you can get Salas to hit one on the ground, you got a pretty good chance because he doesn't run that well. Pasqua the runner at third, and Pagliarulo held on by Herbeck at first.
But you also do set up trailing 2-1, big inning situation.
Yep.
Out in front was Salas, and it's 2-2.
Of course, Straker, if you're Tom Kelly, you're gambling. He's pitched well. He's made really one mistake, and that was looked like a slider in the middle of the plate to Pagliarulo. So if you want to pitch around any one guy, it's a good reason. You already hit a two-run home run.
In the air to deep right field, and that one is gone. So there goes the strategy and everything else as well. 5-1 New York. Mark Salas hits his 6th of the season. It's his 3rd as a Yankee. He hit 3 as a Twin.
Now, this is the type of pitch that causes nightmares for the pitcher. Joyous dreams for the hitter. 1 and 2. Try to spot your fastball. You try to get it inside. Maybe get a brokered bad base hit. Head in the count. Straker with a 1-2 pitch. Doesn't get it in. Pretty much middle of the plate. This is why the Yankees got Mark Salas, because not only does he hit well in a park here, but Yankee Stadium with a short right porch. Easily accessible to a good left-handed pull hitter.
Bobby Meacham now with the count 1 ball and 1 strike. So Mark Salas started his career as a Cardinal, went to Minnesota, and now he and Cerrone sharing the catching duties with New York has made it 5-1. 2-1 on Meacham.
As you said, the gamble does not pay off. The minute you walk that guy, you do take the risk of having an inexperienced pitcher have to pitch late in the ball game, and it just didn't pay off.
3-1 now on Bobby Meacham. Meacham giving up switch hitting this year and hitting solely from the right side. And that's over for a strike. And the count 3-2. So Salas ready to go back to work.
Salas also his last name, the only remaining palindrome in the major leagues.
To right field. And the catch is made by Davidson. Only McCarver could come up with that.
I guess in this ballpark it could be called a palindome, right?
Absolutely.
S-A-L-A-S.
Either way you look at it.
Either way you look at it. I'll tell you, I called a pitch in 1963 to a palindromic figure, a guy by the name of Dick Nin with the Los Angeles Dodgers. He tied a game in a crucial series in the last game of a 3-game series, and it was won by the Dodgers, and that's how they won the pennant that year, beating us.
Most prolific palindromic hitter I ever saw. Tollison grounds out to the right side, and it was 6.5, 5-1 New York. Help us. This ceremony took place yesterday here at the Metrodome. They retired the uniform of Rod Carew, number 29. Carew last year had his uniform number retired by the Angels as well, and there he was with his wife Marilyn. His daughters were here, and a man no doubt on his way in a couple of years to the Hall of Fame. Casey Stengel and Hank Aaron would be the only other men to have their uniforms retired by 2 teams. So he's got some pretty good company, does Rodney, as Tim Laudner takes outside, ball 1, 1-0.
His fondest memories were as of a Twin.
That's what he
8
said.
batting champs, stolen bases, MVP award.
Ball getting loose from the area out in left field. Kirby Puckett, meanwhile, sitting on the bench, and there's a man reflecting the slump that he is in right now. 6 for his last 41.
He's also reflecting on that ball that might have kept them in touch. Well, of course, they still are in touch at 5-1, but the ball that I don't think he really felt that he pinned it against the fence. He probably thinks it hit the top of his glove, and then he caught it with bare hand. Replay showed differently.
Tommy John deals to Laudner and gets the corner for a strike, and the count is 1-1. Here was Puckett earlier. Kirby normally with a smile and a very gracious man, and his demeanor normally reflects it, but when you're 6 for 41 and you just had a call go against you in the outfield and you're down 5-1, different facial expression.
Another changeup from Tommy John, and a lot of people think that every pitch a pitcher throws is a pitch to get a batter out. That is not necessarily true. I guess it's true from an overall sense. You'd just as soon have him swinging a ball 2 feet outside or something like that. And Jim, you were talking about an interesting comment about Bob Gibson in a Jim Murray column recently about why you have to pitch inside. Of course, Bob Gibson did that a lot.
Grounded to the left side, and Tollison scoops it up on the 3rd hop and takes care of Laudner. 1 down. Mark Davidson will come up.
Of course, we were talking about that earlier, mainly because everywhere you go, I mean, we've done games, American League, National League, all the managers, all the announcers say you have to pitch inside. See those American League scores. Al, take over. We'll get back to this thought.
Well, Oakland and Detroit are tied in the 8th. The Angels lead 3-2 at Fenway in the 8th, and Cleveland leading Saberhagen and Kansas City 3-2. Toronto now leads Texas 5-2 as they try to keep pace with the Yankees. Seattle, Milwaukee in a rain delay.
Getting back to that thought, Jim Murray talking to Bob Gibson, and you taught Bob, and I think of the best year that I can think of is 1968 with a 1.12 ERA. Man in the Hall of Fame, he says the way you get guys out is with outside pitches, not inside. Contrary to what I've heard all year long, he said inside pitches go over the fence, but you set up that out pitch by coming inside, not just once, but until you have the batter where you want him. So in other words, get ahead, show the pitcher, or excuse me, the batter the ball inside, and then get him out away. It worked in Baltimore. That was George Bamberger, who had about, I think, 18 20-game winners. You have to establish the ball away, be able to make that pitch. And I think the thought you were talking about,
Dick Davidson grounds to second for the out,
was that when Tommy John threw that changeup with a 1-1 count, he knew, show it to him, but I know I can get that sinker away. I know Laudner has a good strike zone, and I'll do that. I have enough confidence, self-confidence, and you can see the score, he should, that I can do what I want to do, and I'm just going to show him a pitch for effect, and I'll come back with a pitch I really want to get him out with.
2 down, bases empty. Meanwhile, while nobody was looking or has been looking, Don Mattingly now has 17 putouts tonight at first base, which reflects what Tommy John's been doing. He gets them to hit it on the ground. The major league record is 22, and there's a base hit into left field. So Lombardozzi with a single, and Mattingly's got a decent chance because in a 9-inning game, the Twins still have 7 more outs. Mattingly is 5 putouts away from a major league. Wouldn't that be something? Mattingly, who has just tied Dale Long's record and has just as well broken the American League mark for extra base hits in consecutive games. He's working on that string tonight. Also has another one within reach.
2 days later.
Yeah. How about his comment about Dale Long? He said, I understand Mr. Long played in the 50s, but then again, I was born in 1961. I didn't get to see him very often. Or very much. Oh, it's a great.
Well, he's very respectful, and I think, you know, the more that Mattingly does and the more he gets known and you get to know the personal Don Mattingly, the personal side of him, the more impressed you are. And he's been able to really keep everything together and playing in, you know, the biggest fishbowl of all. Strike to Gladden.
And another point along those same lines, Tommy John pitched to Dale Long back in the early 60s.
Yeah, that's right.
When Long was a member of the New York Yankees and Tommy was pitching with the Chicago White Sox.
John and Long and Zimmer. Brings back that question again. Huh? How old is Tommy John?
Right.
You know, another little interesting twist, which dawned on me a couple of days ago. Dale Long was a left-handed first baseman, as is Mattingly. But you know what Long did in 1958? He caught in 2 games for the Pirates. And Mattingly, you'll recall, last year started 2 games at third base against Seattle, as Winfield takes care of Gladden's fly ball. And we played 7 full with the Yankees on top, 5-1. I guess the Smith brothers live here in Minnesota. That's Jeff Reardon on the left in the bullpen, and Bert Behome Blyleven on the right. 2 very key men as the Minnesota Twins go down the stretch in 1987.
Reardon pitching very well after an early season struggle. 2 grand slams and a 3-runner for 11 earned runs. That's why his ERA is so high. And Blyleven's still struggling. 8 wins, 7 losses, though. Have to be an improved Bert Blyleven for them to stay in the hunt.
Henderson leading off here in the 8th inning, 5-1. The Yankees on top. You know who's pitching real well is Viola of late.
We saw him with the shutout 2 weeks ago. He's won 2 games since then. A little help from his friends. Reardon with a couple of saves.
Meanwhile, Straker working into the 8th inning. And the Yankees have done it with a long ball tonight. A 2-run homer by Pagliarulo and a 3-run homer by Salas as Henderson draws the walk. So Rickey is on. Frazier is in the Minnesota bullpen, and Claudell Washington will come to the plate. Washington is 0 for 3. So 5-1, but a couple of things to keep in mind. Mattingly will come up next. He's got that extra base hit streak going. And again, with 17 putouts in 7 innings, he's got a chance if he were to make the ensuing 6 putouts, the remaining 6 in a 9-inning game, he'd establish a major league mark in that area.
I'll tell you, it really gives you an idea of the balance of this Yankee attack. For instance, tonight, Don Mattingly and Dave Winfield have come up 6 times with nobody on base, and yet the bottom part of the lineup beat them.
Henderson going. The throw to second is not in time, and he stole that one on Straker. Rickey gets a good jump, and that's his 26th stolen base.
Well, it's instant death. The leadoff walk to Henderson, as we said, 7 times he's led the American League in stolen bases. Little changeup, great jump. Almost could put it in your pocket. Like you're the catcher.
He has definitely been thinking, at least subconsciously, about that hamstring. Even though he is 26, he has only 3 in his last 30 games.
Well, that's a type of injury, a hamstring being one of the biggest muscles in your body. If you re-injure it, you could be out for another month. I think the amazing thing, you talked about Winfield and Mattingly struggling tonight. I think everybody felt, especially we had seen Toronto come into New York, sweep the Yankees 3 in a row. You lose Mattingly, you lose Henderson. Would they be able to stay in the race? Pitching struggling, yet they've been able to do it. And for an average manager, the way Lou Piniella has been described by his owner, he's done a great job.
Washington hits it down the line in right field. That's a base hit and maybe more. Henderson will score easily, and Davidson will hold him to a single. But the Yankees lead 6-1 as Claudel just does get back to first ahead of the throw back to Herbeck. So the Yankees now lead 6-1, and going to the mound will be Tom Kelly to make the pitching change. Frazier, the one-time Yankee, will come out of the bullpen to pick up for the 27-year-old rookie Les Straker, who leaves with the Yankees on top 6-1, and we'll be back after this message and news headlines for your local station. Making the pitching change as Frazier comes in here in the 8th. 6-1. The Yankees on top, and this the first game of a 3-game series, and it's the final series this season between these two teams. At the start of play tonight, the Yankees had won 5 out of 9, and for the Twins, Jim, it wraps up a homestand, and then they'll go out on the road to Toronto, to Seattle, to Oakland, and to Anaheim.
Well, this is a key road trip. One of the best records in the American League at home, 20-27 on the road. So if they're going to stay in the race, they're going to have to play better on the road. And this is the type of ballpark we've talked. You have the high ceiling here with the dome. You don't see the ball well. Visiting teams come in here, and they have trouble acclimating themselves. Tonight, obviously, the Yankees haven't.
The Yankees, meanwhile, stay on the road and go to Chicago this weekend. But then they return home. And when they go home, it's Kansas City and Detroit coming in. The Yankees, and they've got to be a pretty tired group because last night they played a night game in Texas, and they got to the hotel in Minneapolis at 4 o'clock this morning. So Frazier warming up. We can update the National League for you. Phillies lead the Reds 6-0 in the 7th. Montreal trying to make it 8 in a row, 4-1 in the 5th. Len Dykstra had 4 RBIs tonight in the Mets 9-2 victory over Atlanta. We can also tell you that next week, our final Monday Night Baseball presentation, and we will have exclusive coverage in October of the World Series, but our final regular season telecast will feature the Giants and the Dodgers in Los Angeles. Some of you will see the Chicago White Sox taking on the Detroit Tigers on Monday Night Baseball, a week from tonight at 8 Eastern Time.
I'll be seeing that game. Yes. Dodging line drives, hovering right over home plate.
Your favorite
Tiger
press
Stadium.
box.
Wasn't my favorite park. I was talking to Ralph Houck about some of the great Detroit Tiger teams, the ones with Mickey Stanley and Horton and Kaline and Mattingly. Mattingly didn't.
Washington goes on the pitch to Mattingly, which is low and inside, ball 1. 1-0 the count. Mattingly 0 for 3 tonight, again, as Washington has just been credited with his 6th steal of the season. Don has an extra base hit in 10 straight games. An American League record. The Major League record is 14. Paul Waner of the Pirates in 1927. Washington at second, and the 1-0 pitch is a strike, and the count 1-1. Final score: Detroit 5, Oakland 4. And so even with a loss, the Twins will stay on top in the West. A loss by Minnesota coupled with an A's win would have put Oakland in first by percentage points.
George Frazier has always been an enigma to me. I mean, here's a guy with an over 90-mile-per-hour fastball, pretty good breaking ball. We just saw a changeup, and you don't usually be in the position to be able to fool a guy like Don Mattingly. I mean, totally fooled by that changeup. Out on his front foot. He's the type of guy that, as you said, his body may come forward, but the hands stay back. So he always has something left to hit with. And I think that the funny thing is reading all the articles, he's not a power hitter. 31 home runs last year, 35 the year before.
And Mattingly goes down swinging. That's about as bad as Mattingly can possibly look.
George Frazier later last season, or in the latter part of last season, came up with a split finger fastball, and when he was traded to the Twins, he used that very, very well. He had 6 saves in a short time with Minnesota, and that's what that pitch was. Only his 20th strikeout this year for Don Mattingly.
And you're right, that's why Frazier is, as Jim said, an enigma. Here's a guy who comes in with some crazy numbers, and yet he is the guy who makes Mattingly look, that's as bad as Don can possibly look in an at-bat. Winfield with Washington going, the pitch is low, and there's no throw as Washington crosses up the Twins with a steal of third.
It's also a total lack of concentration on George Frazier. That's twice. We saw second, now we've seen third. Another runner in scoring. Well, he's already in scoring position when he stole second, but as we said, they have averaged 7 runs a game for Tommy John. He doesn't really need that tonight, it doesn't seem like. But it seems they're on the verge of scoring another run to make it 7. Have to play your infield in. Here you see it again. Washington with a big lead. Lauder, not much he can do about it.
And back live, Winfield takes inside to count 2 balls and no strikes.
What a year. 325 lifetime home runs, 200 stolen bases. Pretty good company. Aaron Mays, Frank Robinson, guys like that. Bobby Bonds, Reggie Jackson, and Don Baylor.
Only 7.
Only 7. Much maligned. Putting the same numbers in New York as he did in San Diego.
Washington getting back.
Few more home runs, few more RBIs.
Washington wasn't that far off of third base, but watch the throw right on him. Gaetti just a matter of catching the ball and making the tag. Washington almost made the tag, but he was on the bag.
That beach ball escaping from Dodger Stadium, so time called for the moment.
It's the way all the pitches looked at Don Mattingly when he was in that home run streak. As big as a beach ball. That's what Brett said back in 1980 when he hit 390. He said, "Are you seeing the ball well?" He says, "It looks like a beach ball." All the good hitters, when they are hitting well, will tell you that.
Funny, that beach ball, we were kidding about Dodger Stadium. That's where it began, and now you see it in every ballpark. Not that we're voting for it. 2-1 pitch is grounded to the left side, speared nicely by Gaetti, who holds the runner, throws him out. Washington having to remain at third with the infield in. And with 2 down, it will bring up Dan Pasquale.
Tell you, George Frazier, speaking of his being an enigma, he was no more enigmatic than in 1981, the World Series. He pitched for the New York Yankees. He was 0-3 in that series, coming over to the Yankees from the Cardinals for a player to be named later, and that player to be named later was Rafael Santana.
I believe the only man in history to ever lose 3 games in a World Series.
There have been a few who have won 3. That's one of those things. It's almost like, you know, Winfield in a way. He was Winfield's teammate, and we keep talking about Winfield and that albatross of the 1-for-22 World Series. If you want to find something negative about Dave, and it's the same thing with Frazier. No matter what he does, everybody will say, "Oh yeah, the guy who lost 3 in the World Series." So he's got a soulmate in Dave Winfield when they think about 1981. There's David.
And it could work the other way too. When you look at Bucky Dent, who was a good shortstop, a steady shortstop. He hits a 3-run homer against the Boston Red Sox in 1978, and that's all anybody will ever remember him for. Plus, he was the most valuable player in that series that year.
Especially up in New England.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Funny what the World Series will do. You look at a guy like Al Weiss, and you think maybe he was a pretty decent hitter because of the one great World Series. 1-2 the count. Pasqua with a double and a triple tonight. So picking up where he left off in Columbus as he tried to get, as Jim said, his head back together more than anything else. And again, we pointed that out earlier. He loves the indoors.
Well, he set up both scoring innings, or at least the two main one, the 2-run inning and the 3-run inning with the double leadoff ones. It shakes your confidence a little bit, and then the triple that Puckett almost caught. Then the intentional walk, mainly because you're trying to keep that 3rd run from scoring. You take a gamble, it didn't pay off, and Salas hits the home run. So he's been instrumental in getting the Yankees on the board for really just about 5 out of the 6 runs so far.
1 ball, 2 strikes the count. And it's fouled away.
But that has been the Yankee way. If you look at Pasqua, one day in the minors, Dennis Rasmussen on a 5-game winning streak, sent to the minor leagues because they have a couple of off days. In fact, he hasn't lost a game since May 29th. And the Yankees are 8-1 in his 9 starts. So anything can happen. Certainly been a positive force on Dan Pasqua, at least tonight.
I don't think any other major league ball club, and the Cardinals maybe come as close to the Yankees as anybody, has really expanded their roster into their AAA club any better than the Yankees have done it.
Oh, they've manipulated that up and down shuffle as well as anybody. I mean, when Rasmussen goes down for 1 start down there, and then they're going to bring him back and pitch in the Hall of Fame exhibition game, but they've already told him he's going to pitch on August the 1st against Detroit. That's manipulation. It's legal.
Well, also, here's a guy
sure.
that he's got 8 wins this year on a 5-game winning streak, won 18 games. The only pitcher on their staff that pitched over 200 innings. It's a little bit shabby, but it's something that you have to do for the team, I suppose.
3-2.
Well, do you want a W or a good ERA?
Well, that's a point. And a sports writer once told me in Baltimore that he said, you know what the game's all about is beating the guy that you are going to pitch against that night. Tommy John is doing it tonight with a 6-1 lead. Rasmussen has done it all year. 5-game winning streak. His ERA is much higher than last year, but so is the league ERA.
And Frazier throws a fastball to punch out Pasqua. And the Yankees are done in the 8th. But they add to their lead as they pick up a run. Lead 6-1, and we'll return after this message and news headlines from your local station.
This is Corey McFerrin back in New York. Want to show you how the Athletics lost their game tonight. Bottom of the 8th, Darrell Evans fly ball right field. Mike Davis is waiting. Now Louis Polonia comes over from center field, and Davis drops the ball. Run comes home. Evans thrown out at second base as he slides by the bag. The Davis error the difference. Detroit wins 5-4. That's a tough one.
The Yankees are on their way to a victory. What would we do without the good old book?
No, that's right.
The record book. We're talking about Don Mattingly before. On the verge of a record for putouts as we start the bottom of the 8th inning with a drive off the bat of Gagne to right center field and off the fence and into second with a stand-up double. Gagne's second hit of the night. So a promising beginning for the Twins here in the bottom of the 8th inning. And Kirby Puckett coming up from the Yankee bullpen will swing into action. We were talking about Mattingly chasing the record right now, 22 putouts at first base. That's in a 9-inning game, but you know what the all-time record is? It was in that Boston-Brooklyn game in 1920 in 26 innings.
1-1 game?
1-1 game, May 1st, 1920. Braves had a first baseman by the name of Walter Holke. 42 putouts in that game.
Oh, my goodness.
Mattingly right now is 17. And the Yankees
need 6 more outs, so he'd have to make the put out on each of them. With no double play involved either. Puckett. Righetti, meanwhile, gets up in the Yankee bullpen. Mattingly's chances would be somewhat diminished if Righetti gets into the game.
That's correct. Excellent point.
Puckett takes outside, ball 1. And there's Dave. Puckett earlier just missing a great leaping catch on a drive by Pasqua. Kirby is a hitter tonight. 3 times John has had him eating out of his hands. 3 times he's hit the ball to the right side on the ground, and he's 0 for 3.
I think a lot of baseball people become confused when they talk about different pitchers keeping the ball down. That ball was up, really. But Tommy John, the reason he's successful is not only does he keep the ball down, but when it passes through the strike zone or over the plate, it's got action on it. And because of that, maybe Tim McClellan wants to check the ball. Too much action sometimes.
Well, he's always been accused of, and it's funny, it hasn't happened the last few years as he's gotten older, been accused of scuffing the ball. The ball always moves a little bit too much. In other words, the ball just sails at the last moment, which is what a scuff ball will do.
There's a little chopper. Runner holds, and Mattingly has put out number 18 on a little comeback. So Puckett tonight is a very weak 0 for 4. And it will bring up Gaetti. So there's a man in the throes of a slump, and that's something that hasn't happened very often for Kirby.
Of course, in his defense, it's nice to come in when you're slumping and still hitting .332.
I'll say. Bobby Mercer talking before the game about Don Mattingly being concerned. He was hitting .320 at the time, and he's talking about how he was slumping.
Well, Wade Boggs went 0 for 11 in the 2 games Saturday and Sunday.
That was a mistake.
Tony Olivo had an excellent point. He overheard Bobby and Jim and I talking about Mattingly slumping, and Tony said that's why he hits .350.
In the air to center field, Cordell Washington underneath it, and he makes the catch for the out, and Gagne will tag at second and on his way to third, and he's in there. On a somewhat risky play when you're down by 5.
Yes.
I mean, you want to make it not nearly as close as that one was.
One of those great plays if you make it. Otherwise, you look like a fool. Knowing the ball is going to be caught, figures let's test Washington's arm, and Claudel makes a nice throw. Ball just as you see Paliarulo as Gagne slides into third.
But the point is, as you said, if the play's that close, it's a bad play in a 5-run ball game.
And they are down 6-1 as Herbeck hits the deck, and the count is 1-0.
Been hearing a lot about throwing at hitters, beanballs, but with a 6-1 lead, it will make the breaking ball and the pitch away more effective, but Tommy John does not want to hit Kent Herbeck. Wow. That's interesting. You're looking so much away, down, that you're more apt to get hit by a guy like Tommy John if he throws the ball up and in than somebody like a Roger Clemens that you can't really look down and away. You look away, but you just don't look down as much.
Let me ask you to read Tommy John's mind. Where exactly was he trying to throw that pitch?
Well, that could have been that cut fastball we talked about.
Herbeck hits one down the line, foul.
I mean, Herbeck last year 29 home runs, 4 of them off left-handed pitchers, 25 off right-hander. He hits righties a lot better. This year he's hit more home runs at something like 8 and 15 or something, but you want to pitch him up and in. You want to tie him up, but you don't want to hit him. It's like walking somebody. You don't take advantage of your defense. Is exactly what Tommy John would not want to do at this point in the game.
So he was not trying to knock him down.
Trying to throw the ball up and in, which he did right there, and he leaves it up to Mattingly.
And Mattingly will make this play himself. And Don now has 19 put out, so if he makes all 3 in the ninth, he'll go into the book along with a couple of others. At the end of 8, 6-1, New York. Ninth inning at the Metrodome in Minneapolis, and Mike Pagliarulo will be leading things off. And it was Pagliarulo who got the Yankees off and flying in the 5th inning with this 2-run homer off Les Straker that followed a double by Dan Pasqua. That made the score 2-0, and the Yankees have not looked back. They lead 6-1.
Well, this is the kind of ballpark that if you're a left-handed hitter, you come in and it's like a right-hander hitter going up to Fenway Park. Look at the short porch and you become happy. See some happy Minnesota fans. This telecast is presented by the authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Something you've heard many times, Al.
You're supposed to begin that by saying friends.
Well, this is a learning experience up here. I like playing tennis.
What friends are for, again.
I don't like playing tennis.
I'll tell you what, I like being inside tonight, though, because we get to see the local feed here in Minneapolis, and all night long we've had these, what they call crawls, coming across the bottom of the screen about all the severe weather in this area. So it's a nice night to be under the dome in Minneapolis. Stormy outside. 6-1, the Yankees on top. Pagliarulo facing George Frazier, and it's over for a strike, 1-1.
This guy's work ethics. Early in the year, when we first Yankee game, Pasqua's hitting about 190. He's hitting about 206. Not a whole lot of home runs, struggling. But you don't hear too many negative things about Mike, because he is exactly like Don Mattingly in the sense that he is one of the first guys out, the extra hitting, the extra ground balls, made himself into a good player.
2-1 on the non-superstitious one, who takes inside. 3-1 on number 13.
It's almost like he's hitting you in the face. So I don't care what's going to happen. My work ethic is going to be such that I'm going to overcome anything. Good sinkers, good sliders, good curveballs. You saw the home run. He's got excellent power.
And he's on. Mike Pagliarulo draws the walk. And it will bring Mark Salas to the plate, who is 2 for 3 tonight, including a 3-run homer in the 7th inning.
We talked about George Frazier and great stuff, but always seeming to struggle. 3 losses. The one thing that jumps out, you 52 innings going into his. Let's take another look at Salas's home run on a 1-2 pitch. Right down the middle, clobbers it. But Frazier's walked 34, now 35 guys in about 53 innings, with almost a hit per inning. A lot of runners on base for a relief pitcher.
The corner, and the count is 0-1.
Timmy, when you have a guy that's good stuff, fastball over 90, forkball, breaking ball, you have a tendency when he's wild to sit more in the middle of the plate.
Well, you have a tendency to talk to him about throwing the ball to the middle part of the plate and letting the action take over. Instead of to the mitt, you have him throw to the 4 corners, the 2 shoulders and the 2 knees. It gives you a bigger target. You hold the catcher's mitt in the center of the body, so he's in effect not throwing to the mitt, but throwing to the body.
That's hit foul outside first, and the count 1-2.
I think it's interesting. There are a lot of similarities between Pasqua, Pagliarulo, and Mattingly. All of them almost appear to be sitting on their left leg. Their weight is back, and I think, Jim, we were talking about it before the ball game. Salas really doesn't fit into that category, but could once Lou Piniella gets a hold of it.
That's the way Lou hit, and one thing about Lou is that they give him freedom to come out as the manager. As I said, one of the better hitters that I ever faced because he used the whole field. He could hit for power with average, got back on that back foot, and waits very well. And he comes out and he just will watch them hit during the entire batting practice, give them suggestions. And then you have guys that like to come out and work hard. They come out on extra hitting on the road. They do it at home. And Mattingly, I mean, he can go 4 for 4. He may still not feel comfortable, yet he'll come out and take extra hitting.
And to repeat the words of Tony Oliva, that's probably why he hits 350.
1-2 pitch. And we'd be remiss, speaking of Oliva, not to point out it's his 46th birthday tonight.
Right.
Happy birthday, Tio.
Tony was talking about a lot of times we talked about the inexperience and sometimes the immaturity of some of the Twin players to get them out here early, to get them to work to try to improve their hitting.
That's hit into right field, and Salas has come back to Minnesota with 3 hits tonight. Pagliarulo stopping at second. And the Yankees have 2 on with nobody out, and Bobby Meacham coming to the plate. Update the American League scores for you. Tigers win 5-4 over the A's. Angels win, so they could pick up a game and climb to within 2. They beat the Red Sox. Cleveland leads Kansas City 6-5 in the 5th inning. Toronto leading Texas in the 6th. Still raining in Milwaukee. And being delayed now in Chicago. Baltimore on top by a score of 4-1. At the plate. Twins expecting him to bunt. And he's up there to swing away, at least in the first pitch, and the count 1-0. Mike Ferraro coaching at third. Following Nightline, ABC Monday Sports Night. Among the features, a look at Muhammad Ali. Jimmy Jacobs, the noted boxing historian and manager. Angelo Dundee, Ali's longtime trainer, among those who will partake in the discussion. 1-0 pitch. Low, ball 2. 2-0 the count. As the runners advance, but what a play by Herbeck, and you'll never see a first baseman go that far. That's a world record.
We talked about last week his agility, 250 pounds. You think of him as a home run hitter, yet you forget that he can also use his glove. Great play for the first out, and Salas with a head-up play goes to second. Pagliarulo down to third.
So it's the same thing, ironically, as a sacrifice. A long foul out, and Tollison stands in 0 for 3 tonight. Twins infield has to play in. They're down by 5. A little chopper toward third, and hit slowly enough to score a run. As both men advance, Gaetti throws him out, but Pagliarulo comes in to score. Salas goes to third, and the Yankees now lead it by a score of 7-1. Odd way to come up with an extra run with a walk and a single, and then a foul out to the first baseman, and a little chopper to the third baseman with the infield in. So 2 down, and Henderson hitless tonight with his 10-game hitting streak on the line.
See, Tollefson, really one of the unsung heroes of this Yankee ball club. Got to have a good defensive shortstop if you expect to compete in the major leagues. And Tollefson really doesn't get enough credit, I don't think.
Well, he hasn't, and you look at the batting average, which, as Al said earlier, has declined. But a switch hitter, he's made just about every play you need to make, makes all the routine plays look routine, which is a sign of a good shortstop. He doesn't have a great arm, but he has enough foot speed where he can circle the ball and make the plays. And along with Willie Randolph, who we said is on the DL, has really solidified the middle of that infield. Go back to last year, they had 7 different shortstops on the Yankees, Tim. 7 different shortstops. Randolph had 20 errors.
And that's a liner backhanded by Gaetti at third for the out. So no further damage, but a run for the Yanks, and they now lead it 7-1. We go to the bottom of the 9th inning. 7-1, and the only drama remaining, I guess, is whether or not Don Mattingly will tie a major league record. He has 19 putouts right now. 22 is the record in a 9-inning game. Meanwhile, Tommy John is trying to throw his first complete game victory in 3 years. He had a complete game loss at Seattle last year. He got beat 1-0. And when you do it on the road, of course, it's a complete game, but you're only pitching 8 innings. So he's looking for that. Mattingly's looking for 3 putouts, which would tie him with Thomas Jones of the St. Louis Browns in 1906, Hal Chase of the Yankees in 1906, and Ernie Banks did it with the Cubs in '63. So in the last 81 years, it's been done once. And there's a grounder to short, and Mattingly's got a shot at it because he's got putout number 20. The assist goes to Thomason, and Bernansky is out number 1. It's interesting that catchers also share in that record, because the record for most putouts by a catcher is 22. Bob Schmidt of the Giants, Tom Haller of the Giants, and Steve Yeager of the Dodgers, but those were all in extra inning games. So I wonder, in a 9-inning game, it's just the 3 first basemen.
Rich Gedman, of course, had at least 20 last year.
Right. We think at least 20. I can't recall if somebody might have been thrown out at first base when Clemens struck out 20. So Laudner is at the plate now, and it's fouled away. It's funny. This is one of those records. There probably aren't 10 people in the stadium who know about this right now. But there he is, trying to put his name into the book.
Yeah, a watchman.
Right, with an earpiece.
Yes. Then they're in. Otherwise, they're out.
0-2 pitch. I mean, can you see it? A guy is at the game, and he goes home, and his wife says, "Hey, what about that record?" He says, "What are you talking about?"
What's so intriguing, though, is that all night long. Yeah, right. Did you see the record broken? What's so intriguing is they have been trying to do, and they, talking about the Minnesota Twins, have been trying to do exactly what Tommy John has been able to entice them to do. Not hit grounders. Try to make him bring the ball up. And on a night, it's like having a heavyweight against maybe Spinks versus Holmes. You figure you're looking for the knockout. You have the bludgeoners, talking about Minnesota, even though they've been bludgeoned tonight. And you have the finesser here in Tommy John. Let's make them bring the ball up belt high, and all you do is hit ground balls. And you go home and you say, well, it was a comfortable 0 for 4.
2-2 pitch. There's a ground ball. That's a fair ball. Tough play. Pagliarulo throws. He's got him. So there's 21 putouts. I'll bet you Mattingly doesn't have a clue right now that he's 1 out away from going into the book. I asked him the other day, too. I asked him tonight, in fact, did he have any idea about Long's record after, let's say, 4 or 5 games? He said, no way.
That may have permitted him to go 8 games and continue to hit a home run.
Right. He said it was brought to his attention after he had done it in 5 games. And then he goes to the All-Star game, so it's not in the forefront of his consciousness for 3 days. And then he comes back, and then, of course, everybody makes a big deal when he makes it 6, as Davidson, on a check swing, didn't come around, and the count 1-0. So Don Mattingly trying to do something that's been done once in the last 81 years.
This is where you can lose the record, because 2-0 with a 7-1, you're going to get a belt-high pitch right in the middle of the plate. Big question, is he taking?
Down by 6. He is, and the count is 2-1. 7-1.
Now we go back to the possible record. Tommy's going to the nasty pitch.
And a 2-1 pitch is low. You know, if Salas had a clue here, and he can't be thinking about this, but if John were to strike out Davidson, the thing to do would be to drop the ball and throw to first for the out. 3-1 pitch. There's a little squiver, and it's a foul ball, and it's 3-2.
I'll tell you, I don't think Salas has any idea about the record. But, you know, we mentioned back in the first inning that when John was pitching for Eddie Stanky, if he got 20 ground outs out of 27, he'd get a new suit of clothes. So I think Eddie Stanky owes Tommy John a new set of clothes. And I know he's listening tonight from Mobile.
And the pitch. There's a ground ball to the right side, and he's going to do it. That's 22 putouts for Mattingly, and it just goes up on the board right now. And that's how Don, I'm sure, will find out. He has just put his name into the record book again. What a week for Mattingly. 22 putouts. His extra base streak ends tonight, but in the past few days, he has tied Dale Long's Major League record and set an American League mark, homering in consecutive games. He has set an American League record for most consecutive games with an extra base hit, and he ties a fielding record tonight with 22 putouts. Don Mattingly, one of a kind. And Tommy John, one of a kind as well. His first complete game win in 3 years. 7-1 Yankees. 7-1, the Yankees win it, so not much drama as you look at the line score and totals, but at least one for the books taking place at the very end. Don Mattingly capping an incredible fortnight now with this put out at first base and doing something that in the last 81 years only Ernie Banks, who gained fame, of course, as a shortstop, #1, and then as a first baseman later on, #2. Don Mattingly putting his name into the record book with 22 putouts. We'll be back. In Minnesota, the New York Yankees 7 and the Minnesota Twins 1. And ABC's Monday Night Baseball has been brought to you by the heartbeat of America, today's Chevrolet. By Coors Light, the Silver Bullet. There's no slowing down with a Silver Bullet. By the Bartles and James Premium Wine Cooler Company. And by Mr. Goodwrench. No one knows your GM car better than Mr. Goodwrench. No one. Be sure to join us tonight for ABC News Nightline, immediately following your late local news. And then Monday Sports Night. Sam Posey reports on the daring running of the Bulls from Pamplona. Also a look at Muhammad Ali. It all begins following Nightline on ABC Sports. And this has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader in sports television.